she will.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I thank God for so many people coming out this morning. What a blessing. I'm here to welcome you to our wellness program, seminar, whatever you want to call it, but I call it a wellness program because whatever we're going through, we're going to hear some things that will help us. So I welcome you to listen carefully, take notes, and when there's question and answer time, jot down something if you don't understand it. Because sometimes we hear good stuff, but we don't ask questions, like, and we wonder, well, what did that mean? And we leave with that on our heart, but we don't get an answer. So it's open up today to ask those questions. Get all the understanding we can, because we run into so many people that have issues, including myself, and I'm in a school with a lot of children. You just don't know how many children today have mental issues. So we welcome you. If it's your grandchildren, listen carefully so that if we can help them in any kind of way, we want to help them. And you're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome.
Good morning. It's just good to see everyone that is out today. So we welcome you again to our awareness on counseling and therapy groups and family therapy. Our spiritual guidance ministry is sponsoring this event today. And so when I finish reading something, they'll come forward and they'll introduce themselves. I was preparing, and the Lord said, just share this. And so I'm going to share a reading with you, okay, um, about nobodies and somebodies. When they arrived, Samuel took one look at Eliab and thought, surely this is the Lord's anointed. But the Lord said to Samuel, don't judge by his appearance or height, for I have rejected him. The Lord doesn't see things the way you see them. People judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Paul's whole thrust in his first letter to the believers at Corinth was, I'm not coming to you with brilliance or human wisdom, and certainly not coming to you with any kind of impressive physique or profound philosophy. Instead, I come in the power of God, and there's a good reason for that. Note carefully how Paul put it. For consider your calling, brethren, that there were not many wise according to the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble, but God has chosen the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. And God has chosen the weak things of the world to shame the things which are strong. And the base things of the world and the despised God has chosen, the things that are not, so that he may nullify the things that are, so that no man may boast before God. 1 Corinthians, first chapter, 26 through 29. Paul says, look around, Corinthians. You won't find many impressive people here. Why? So that no one can boast before God. That's a principle we tend to forget because many of us are still a lot like the Greeks. When we look for people to admire as we choose our role models, our heroes, we often are swayed or impressed by things that are cause for boasting. We want the beautiful people, the brilliant people, the successful people. We want the best and the brightest. We're terribly just armored of the surface. The superficial still impresses us much more than we like to admit. We even elect a president because he looks good on television. But God says that's not the way. I make my choices. I choose the nobodies and turn them into somebodies. And that, in a nutshell, is the story of how David was chosen to become a king. So we have come together today to just show you and help you grow. You may know somebody who feels they're a nobody. Maybe you've been there. But now we know today, God takes nobodies and he makes somebodies. I'm going to ask our spiritual guidance team, and you can just stand where you are, and please introduce yourself, and then I'll introduce our presenter. Okay, go ahead and she's going to take that mic.
I'm already loud.
They can just introduce
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Joyce Russell, and I just wanted to say about what Ms. Malone basically just said. I was just a nobody. I felt that for so many years. When I joined St. Luke, it changed. God saw a nobody and made me somebody. And I'm so grateful because ever since then, I have joined in with the spiritual guidance and I've had the real support from our pastor as well as our first lady. And I tell you, it has been a blessing. And I'm not going to tell you that I have never went through or been through since I've been here, because I have. And when I say that, I mean not just with people, just with myself, within, okay? So I was that one, and right today I could easily say that I'm one of those ones that could be mentally messed up, okay, right now, simply because I've just lost my mom. And that hurts. I never knew what people meant when they said, I lost my mom, or this or that, or that or this. You know, they can say it, but you don't know until you go through it. And so I can truly say, thank God for spiritual guidance. Thank God for God, because that has what been keeping me and getting me over. And slowly but surely, he's taking me through. He has given me peace, and I thank him for it. He's given me strength through spiritual guidance. I thank him for it. But I tell you, it's not easy. Every day I'm struggling with wanting to see my mom. Regardless to how she was, how she looked, what she said, she could still tell me, Joyce, I don't even like you today. And I would want to hear that right now. So all I'm saying to you, listen, because this is no joke with mental health. And thank you again, Ms. Malone.
Amen. I ain't long-winded like my sister, Joe. So, just joking. I'm Deacon James Flint Sr. I'm a part of the spiritual guidance team. I'm also a facilitator for Reclaiming Your Life Recovery Ministry, as well as the proud owner of Reclaiming Your Life Recovery Home. And I tell you this spiritual guidance has helped me in my ministry tremendously. But it also has helped me, like my sister said, with dealing with my mom's death. So just have an open heart and an open mind. Let your ears hear what thus says the Lord. Because the Lord is going to use Brother Thomas to minister to us this morning. Just keep an open mind. God bless y'all.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Devonna Chapman. I am newer on the spiritual guidance ministry, but I work also in a high school where we have a lot of students. So not only will this, or it is helping me to learn more, but also learn how to work with our students that deal with so much trauma from home. And like we're not taking them out of their home, but showing them ways of how they can actually go back home and deal with what they deal with at home behind closed doors after they talk to us. So I am grateful to be on this ministry, and that's me.
Hello, my name is Shirley Hampton, and I'm with the Spiritual Guidance Ministry, and I also work at the Rockford Rescue Mission, and I counsel men in men's life recovery. I really and appreciate God for letting me do this, because a lot of people I minister to, and He always gives me a word to say to them, to encourage them, to let them know that even though they have fallen, they can get back up.
Good morning. My name is Idella Blakely. I'm not a lone speaker, but I thank the Lord for blessing me and being able to use me and making myself available for Him. One thing that I learned that is with the ministry of what I'm learning is a confirmation of being able to help those that are in need, that He lead and guide and direct us to speak through and speak to. And one thing that I learned and experienced in spiritual growth, and it's a motto for me, is that not let people determine your destination. Because sometimes we try to be people pleasers, and we need to be Christ pleasers. And we need to become more like Christ, Christ-like, than be people-like, okay? God bless you all, and y'all have a great day.
Good morning. My name is Shirley Smith. I'm one of the newer members, and I am so thankful that I'm on this committee to be able to help myself and help others too.
Morning again. I'm Mary Lewis, also part of the counseling team. And my goal is I work at Constance Lane Elementary School, and our children are so hurt. And I have a little boy in my class from last year. He was just a holy terror. And I started praying for the kids before school started, because I knew the ones that we were going to get were heavy hitters. And I tell you the truth, he has calmed down. He's my friend, and he had told me one day how much he liked me, and I just appreciated that. He went from saying the F word and this, and he still says it, but we're working on it to calm it down some. And I said, Lord, give me some words to say to him. And I just told him, all that cursing is not good for you. All that running in and out, that's disrespectful. So he ran out the other day, and I had to go get him, and I come out, that wasn't right. So when we get back, you need to apologize to the teacher for what you said and what you did. And I tell you guys, he come back in, he wasn't screaming. He talks real loud. He did apologize. He told her he was sorry for the way he acted. So thank you, Jesus. Counseling has taught me how to talk to the children. I knew it already, but sometimes when you leave your children to act one way, you get in the mix of kids that act totally not like kids with their language and all the things that they've learned. You need Jesus to help you change your mindset so that you can handle them in the way that they need to be handled. And that's what counseling has taught me through Sis Malone and all the ones that are around me. Calm down when they're going off, because you can't get them back in control without dragging them off to the office and doing all kinds of yelling and screaming at them. So if your children start acting out, there's something under there that they need to talk about.
I'm Linda Lewis. I enjoy being with the Spirit Guidance, and I enjoy listening to the tapes. It's very good, and it helps us and help other people. So that's too much to say. But that's all. That's all I can say. But I just being with the group and helping out. That's my thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cherie Cavett, and I enjoy the spiritual counseling group because it's helped me control my attitude. So when I get around people, and you work on your jobs that don't know Jesus Christ and the pardoning of their sin, I said I can I can smile, be ye kind to one another, and I can be kind to them. That's what this counseling has helped me, and I thank God for it. I thank God for all you for coming, and I thank God for being the Savior that He is to me. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sister Geraldine Hightower. I am the wife of Reverend Marvin Hightower, pastor of Mount Zion Baptist Church, and I am a member of the Spiritual Guidance Council, Spiritual Guidance Ministry. And I want to thank Sister Malone for this ministry. And I want to say, since I've been in this ministry, I've learned that it starts with me. It starts with me. Because we all have issues that we have to deal with, but I can't minister to someone else if I don't let God minister to me and take care of my issues. Now, I'm not going to be perfect, but I thank God that for the workshop that we're having, because it's so needed. And I thank God for reaching out to the different churches that is available to us. And I just thank God for this ministry, and I look forward to what we're going to learn today.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Curtis Smith. I've been a part of the ministry for a couple of years now. Just glad to see everybody out here, and God bless you. Good morning. Again, my name is James Horton. I'm part of the Spiritual Guidance Ministry, and I just like to say it's a blessing to be able to be involved in something that can help somebody, to change somebody's life. And there's no better feeling in the world to be able to do that and help somebody. And I'd just like to thank Ms. Malone for asking me to be a part of this. So God bless everybody here. God bless her too.
As you notice, they say the best for last. I'm Reverend Robert Jones. I'm Pastor Malone's assistant. And I've learned something, that is, God can take ordinary people and make extraordinary people out of them.
I want to thank the Spiritual Guidance Ministry for introducing themselves. Now we're going to introduce our presenter today, which is Reverend Kevin Thomas. And we do have his bio right there in the program. I just want to read a little of his bio, just a little of that, and then we're going to bring him right up. Opening up, it says Reverend Kevin Thomas is an Army veteran, ordained minister, and mental health advocate that has been married for 25 years with 2 daughters, 1 son, 2 bonus daughters, and 3 grandchildren. He is currently the clinical director for Lantern Therapy Services and Beacon of Enlightenment, where he works as a marriage, family, and trauma therapist. He has worked in mental health for the last 16 years. He is a doctoral candidate researching does intergenerational trauma, is epigenetics in regard to trauma on people of color. Reverend Thomas is a national certified counselor, licensed professional counselor, certified relationship specialist, certified clinical trauma professional, and certified in psychological first aid. There's one thing he says as he ends this bio that I'm going to read. It says, Reverend Thomas believes that his calling in ministry and life is to educate the community on the importance of mental health. He creates and conducts these events yearly to provide intellectual, informative, educational opportunities for Black Americans to be more informed on mental health. He wants to create an ongoing dialogue about how to help others heal from the unidentified, unintentional trauma. I would like to bring at this time Reverend Kevin Thomas, who will present for us on today. Let's welcome him.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna walk a little bit and I kind of get comfortable in that way. Um, I got allergies, so I do not have COVID, guys. I wanted to make sure because we get really frantic if someone has COVID, right? So I want to say this first of all is thank you, Sister Malone, for allowing us to have this. Me personally, I don't take it for granted that we have to have these type of events, but I do know that we need these events. So I appreciate you guys getting out of your bed on a Saturday morning to come listen to little old me. I appreciate that. I will say this as well, is that everything starts with God. No matter what I do outside of church, it still starts with God. My foundation is built on God. Everything that I do is God-centered and God-aligned. So even though I work in a field of counseling and therapy, that doesn't mean that there's not opportunity for me to talk about God. And so I want to make sure you guys know that we cannot do therapy and counseling aside from God. We have some individuals that do that, but outside of God, but I tend to believe they have a little bit harder time reaching people. So you got to have some foundation. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Sister Malone asked me to talk about what is therapy, what is counseling, what is family and group. But in order for me to get to that point, I need to bring something to the forefront of what's going on in our communities. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And one of the things that I do is that I try to make it practical for you, because I do understand that everybody may not understand something. So I try to make it as clear as possible so you can really understand how significant this is. I was always taught that ABCs is the best way to teach anyone. So if you can teach ABCs to a little kid, you can teach it to adults as well. So we're gonna make it clear and make it plain. I'm gonna try not to say words over your head. I'm gonna try not to talk about certain things because I want you guys to walk away from here understanding the significance of what our community is dealing with, okay? So as of right now, I need like let me get 4 volunteers, please. 4 volunteers. Can we put this over here? Y'all don't have to be afraid. So, okay, I got 3. Well, come on. Okay, come on. So, this is how this works. I'm going to ask a question, and you see you have agree and you have disagree right here, right? So, when I ask the question, they're going to go to their answer, what they believe is their answer. So, all you guys can end up over there, or you can end up here, or you can be split. It doesn't matter. Once we get there, I'm going to ask you a question. I want you guys to answer that, okay? Okay. So, this is our agree to disagree category. And it's really based on some of the things that happen in our community or not happen in our community. So, the first question is, mental health was talked about in my house. You got go to agree, disagree. Oh, you sign. There you go. Disagree, disagree. Wow. Okay. So, can you tell me a little bit about? You said it wasn't. Okay. Do you know why? No. Okay. Go ahead.
No, it wasn't discussed in my house because it just never was an issue.
Okay. It wasn't an issue. Okay. What about you?
No, we didn't discuss mental health in our house.
Okay.
parents thought since they were Christians, they knew Jesus Christ, they went up front and joined church, that they didn't have an issue with it. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I just noticed that the older people, some of them was losing their memory and stuff like that. But other than that, it wasn't really talked about.
Okay. Thank you. So that's exactly how it works. So next question is, I believe that mental health is important. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Oh, well, there's a sign. Go to the sign over there. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Okay, so everybody believe.
going back through the civil rights movement, I mean, we thought we didn't have an issue with it. I mean, we were downtrodden, so we thought that, well, God's on our side. That's all we need. So what do we need to go to mental health classes? I mean, especially if you live in a small rural community, they didn't have it. And now, the white churches, they had all of it, but the black church wasn't teaching it. So,
Gotcha. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I think it just went off. What about you?
I feel that mental illness is very important. People struggle with different types of illnesses, and it's vital that we address that and try to figure out a way to make it easier for people to interact daily.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm glad I had a chance to think about that question. I believe I come from an era of old school. Old school, back in my day, we never talked about mental illness because it never existed in the household. For us, we were too busy. We were too busy taking care of the family. We were too busy doing what we needed to do. Mental illness was never an issue. But now we're living in a day where we compromising our mental thoughts, and the children is really being affected. So you're talking about a different group. So to answer your question, I can't answer that in a straight answer. I have to, because now you're dividing me. I'm coming from an old school era where that mama didn't play that. Mama put her hand on her hip. Look, you do what you need to do. Okay. Let's keep this moving. Get it in, get it on, and get it over with. That was our mental illness. But today, these kids don't have no structure because they have to fall back on whoever was raising them. I'm starting to preach here.
Give it to one of them.
There you go.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I forgot the question.
The question is, I believe that mental health is important.
Yes.
Okay. You are over at the agree, so we know yes. I just wanted you guys to talk about it. Okay, so here's my next question. Think about this. If you looked at me, you wouldn't know I deal with mental health challenges. Agree or disagree? If you looked at me, you wouldn't know I deal with mental health challenges. Agree or disagree?
Well, they're looking at me. What you see is what you get.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. So now think about that. Why are you standing in the middle? No. Now I got. Yeah. No. Come on now. Come on. No. Well. We're going to come back to her.
yeah.
Because now you're splitting your decision. So I need to know why. You had to put some thought into it now. Go ahead.
Maybe I thought I didn't have any I have issues, but I didn't think issues was mental health issues. You know, I have a few problems, you know, but I didn't think it was a mental health thing. It's probably like a heart thing, my heart, you know.
Okay.
But not like a, you know, mental health.
Okay.
You know, no,
Mhm.
no, yeah. Probably
Okay.
that's what I got.
Thank you. You give her that. You gonna no? You gotta have your own answer. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Wait a minute. We don't want to forget Papa.
He had it. Could you ask
Go ahead. Go ahead. So he said disagree. So the question was, if you looked at me, you wouldn't know I deal with mental health challenges.
No, I don't. I wouldn't. Um, maybe it's I need to learn maybe more about mental health versus mental illness.
Yeah.
I deal with mental illness, but I don't know if it's the same or whatever.
No,
But
it's
looking
not
at
the
you-
same. But the fact that you said that is, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, looking at you, I wouldn't think so.
Okay. So he says mental health versus mental illness. So here's the difference. Mental health is dealing with stressful events. Okay. Mental illness is a diagnosable disorder. Okay. So y'all know the difference now? That's simple we can get. So, but you said you deal with mental illness, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you feel saying that right here and you see all these people looking at you?
Kind of shame, maybe.
Kind of shame? You see all these folks saying they got your back? They got your back.
Yeah.
So here's what I want everybody to think about. So the difference, mental health is a stressful or a crisis moment. Mental illness is a diagnosable disorder. So let me back up, and this is what I need to make sure that everyone understands. This is a safe place. And I need everybody to understand that there's no judgment, there's no criticism. This is a safe space. Okay? All right. So you don't have to elaborate. Well, we got you. Okay. Did you? So you ain't want to answer, did you? That's okay. That's. Go ahead. Go ahead. You answer now, huh? Go ahead.
Because you gave me the definition
Okay.
of mental illness and mental health.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, I don't think, I don't have mental illness. I may be challenged on mental health because mental health is something that we as human beings deal with every day. So that really depends on what mood I'm in. So I may, we can buy some crazy. James Brown said it best when he said, buy a couple of crazy. But on the other end, and now that you elaborated, mental illness is not what I deal with on a day-to-day basis. For me, I deal with mental health.
Okay.
So if talking about me specifically, I'm dealing with mental health, not mental illness. So no one can really look and say what I am on a day-to-day because my coding is very coded.
Thank you. So let me say this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Really good.
Oh, I'll hold it.
If you do not tend to your mental health, it will be a mental illness. Okay? So I want you guys to remember that. So if you're dealing with some mental health issues, please take care of it because it can get worse. Last question. Looking back over my life, I can recognize someone that I know dealt with mental health or mental illness. Looking back over my life, think about when you were growing up through the years and think about the people you've encountered. Have you guys noticed someone that dealt with mental health and mental illness? Agree or disagree?
I agree.
Okay, that's great. So I need two of you guys to answer this. Just two. I don't care which two. Just two. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, mental illness. When I think about it, I didn't know this until later. As you look back over your life, I looked at this, and I believe my sister my younger sister had mental illness. Now, my mother, she was very strict. I mean, if you all saw us in school, you would have been laughing at us. My mom wouldn't let us go nowhere. She wouldn't let us date. She wouldn't let us do this and do that. Dad was cool. You were like my father. He's cool. Mom was hard, man. She ruled the roost. She was hard. And my sister, my younger sister, she was a baby. Me and Jackie, we moved on. Mom didn't want us to get out of the house. She wants us to live at home. I don't know why. I mean, you're going to get married, and, you know, but Mom was just like, who's this, who's that? I mean, she was really strict. And Jan saw it and kind of held back. But me and Jackie, we were tough. We moved on, we pressed on. And my sister, she was scared, you know, and my sister, my younger sister, she passed away. And my mom, well, I know you all think I was one that killed her. I said, well, Mom, you were so strict. You wouldn't let her do nothing, live her life, you know. Live your life, you know. I mean, she went to church, she joined church and everything, but once me and my sister left, Jan was dealing with some problems, and she wrote a letter, and she was saying that, oh, God, why don't you just come on and take me home? You know, I don't want to be here. I want to be with you. And I'm like, whoa, you know, I just want to just die, you know. Never had a chance to live a life, never had children, never, you know, interrelated with other people. And I saw that, and I'm like, wow, my mom was strict. And I don't know what her upbringing was like, but she had a pretty decent one. But she was born, she was a 1930s baby, Depression era baby, so I don't know what she went through, but that was some mental illness. She had mental illness. And me and Jack were just stressed out. But we were strong enough to overcome it through Christ. I knew Christ was what I was looking for. I know he's the answer, and so I worked through it at Christ. But my sister, she just could never learn to work through that, understood that. And a lot of black parents in that era, they weren't like that. They went to church, but they said, because I go to church, I accept Jesus Christ, and I ain't got no problem. So that was, you know, that was a mental illness.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was
I'm
mental
glad
illness.
you were able to
Yeah,
recognize
was.
that. Anybody else?
Okay, I've been diagnosed with dementia, which is a memory thing.
Mm-hmm.
They said it's kind of normal for my age, but I've been trying to figure out how to deal with it. And one thing, I have to write down everything.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, and I was feeling uncomfortable about that. But then I remember young people going to college and doing this and doing that. And they had a itinerary, they were writing down everything, what they were going to do. I said, ain't nothing wrong with writing it down. And if I didn't write it down, I wouldn't be here right now.
All right. I'm glad you wrote it down so you're here. That's fine. Okay. So I want to make sure I stop to let you guys know that we are recording and it is on YouTube. So I just want you guys to know that. If anybody has a problem, please. Okay. All right. Just want to let you guys know, okay? Thank you, guys. Thank you. So let me say this, is that we are living in times that mental health is a serious epidemic. It's something that is plaguing almost every household in some way, form, or fashion. Now, whether it progresses to the point of mental illness or not, we don't know that, right? But what I want you guys to know is that we're in a generation where a lot of our kids are struggling. A lot of our parents are struggling just to try to keep it together. So today it's not to take the place of a counseling or therapy session. I have to let you guys know that. We're not doing therapy. We're not doing counseling. We're talking about what we're talking about. Try to educate you on how to deal with some of the things that you deal with. I will also say this. Pray about it, and then ask God to send you to the right therapist, okay? Because at the end of the day, you have to have a foundation. The difference, and I've seen this throughout my entire career, is the difference between Christians and non-Christians is that they have some type of foundation. And it's difficult when you don't have a foundation to work through some of the struggles and challenges that you have. So please be aware of that. Couple more things. I try not to say the word stigma, because the more we say stigma, the more it becomes a stigma. So we want to try to remove the word stigma, the word crazy. Think about this. At what point does crazy sounds good? Use it in any sentence. Use crazy in any sentence. Just try it. It's going to always give a negative connotation. So when you see other people, try to remove saying that person's crazy, because that person really has some struggles and challenges that's going on. Issues is another thing. Using the word issues. I use the word challenge because everybody deal with challenges. Issues, again, gives another negative connotation that something's wrong with you. Okay? So my wife is going to give out some puzzle pieces, and I want you guys to hold on to those puzzle pieces to the end. Oh, my daughter's going to do it. She's going to give out some puzzle pieces. And so when you get your puzzle piece, hold on to it to the end. Don't throw it away. Don't put it in the garbage. You know, it's for a reason. Okay? So let's get into this. Mr. Cabot, can you cue us up? So let's get into this. You can go to the third slide. Go to the second slide. So, if you feel overwhelmed or triggered, please step out and take the necessary time. If I need to stop and kind of work with you through that, I will. But if you need to step out, because we're going to talk about some things that may trigger you. When I say trigger you, may take you back to a moment in your life where you felt this negative feeling, okay? So I want you guys to know that, again, this is a safe space, so there's no judgment if you step out and take a break, okay? I have to say that because so many times we get into these type of events and we feel that we can't talk about it or we have to hold on to it, all those things. I don't want you guys to feel that way, okay? All right, so next slide, Mr. Cabot. So the scripture for this event, thank you, Sister Malone, is Proverbs 11:14, where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in abundance of counselors, there is safety. When you're choosing a counselor, please do your homework. Make sure you're choosing someone that identifies with you, because it can do more harm than good. Okay, so make sure you're choosing. It's just like when you're looking for a car. It's when you're looking for a house. Don't take the first thing you see. Don't think that there are no more options out there. So I will say for you men, it's very limited black males out there, but we are out there. Okay? Okay, we can go to the next one. So I want to talk to you guys about one thing that is really, really interfering with almost everyone that I've come in contact, which is trauma. We're going to get to talking about the difference between therapy and counseling and family and group. But this first hour, I want to spend talking about some of the things that are happening in our communities. And one of the things is trauma. A lot of people use trauma and talk about trauma. They really don't know what entails with trauma. But trauma is a very deep and rooted challenge for everyone, okay? Like a lot of you guys have said up here, that family issues, family challenges that we've had as kids, living in certain situations, living in certain environments, having parents that didn't have everything. And most of us, if we're from the South, we struggle, and so, but I allow room for grace, because they did what they could do. They did what they could do. So I definitely don't blame them for that. but it is vital for us now to look back and see where some of those things come from that we do. We don't just have an attitude just to have an attitude. We don't just snap at folks just to snap at folks. We don't just disagree in a rude and obnoxious way just to do that. It comes from a place. So when it comes from a place, most of the time it leads back to some type of traumatic event. Okay? When I say traumatic event, something that debilitated you, that happened and debilitated you to the point where your daily function was spent in the house, in the bed, not going out and socializing, things like that. It's gotten to the point where it's crippled you. It's gotten to the point where you don't have any answers and you have to go out and seek it somewhere else. Okay? So the actual definition of trauma is a pervasive problem. It results from exposure to an incident or series events that are emotionally disturbing, life-threatening. So almost anything that we encounter can be traumatic. It depends on the person. So trauma is not a blanket disorder. It is encountered in multiple ways. You can go to the next slide. So let's talk about the science of trauma. So although the field of trauma-informed care is still emerging, there's an understanding that how people's brain and bodies respond to trauma and the negative long-term effects of toxic stress on health. So when I say that, is that individuals that deal with trauma, if you don't know anything about how your body deals with the problems in your life, trauma is like one of those things. I wish I had that sponge, but one of the things is it holds the trauma. Your body holds the trauma. And when your body holds that trauma, what happens is you have diabetes, you have hypertension, you have fibromyalgia, you have all these other illnesses. Medical illness comes out of that because we don't learn how to move those traumas throughout our bodies. So we're talking in terms of genetics, we're talking in terms of brain chemistry, we're talking in terms of physical ailments. So I want you guys to understand how serious trauma is. And to even make it even further, give me 3 people. I'm gonna make this plain to you. Give me 3 people. Don't everybody, come on up. Don't everybody move at once. Come on up. 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 Good. So, come on, you can stand over here. I need one more now. Come on. Oh, I'm waiting on you. Come on. Come on. Oh, I got 4 now, but that's okay. Come on. I need y'all to stand over there. Stand over there. So, my wife is my assistant, y'all. My wife is my assistant. Okay, so you can give her 2. Give her 1. And then give. And let's give her the whole thing. So this is what I want y'all to understand. This is how trauma works, right? She has 3, she has 1, she has 2, and then she has 24, right? We don't encounter trauma in a vacuum. We see people and we think everything is okay, right? She may come in, it may be visible for you guys to see. She may have a bad attitude. You ain't got no bad attitude. She may have a bad attitude, and it may be leading from that one trauma she has, right? That she left home and didn't know she even had. Yeah. She just was just like, I'm struggling today. But how she responds goes back to that one trauma that she deals with. And she hasn't yet dealt with it, right? Then you may see that one that come in, she has 2 or 3 traumas, right? And it's okay that she has 2 because it's not a really, really big deal, right? And then you have this one that has 3. Now she's starting to clown, actually. Really? she's actually starting to clown, because I mean you got 3 traumas now. So she's actually starting. But you see what she's doing, right? She adjusting, because guess what? She all put together. She's all put together. She look good. She looks good stepping in here on Sunday morning. Looks really good, and got all 24 of her traumas all put together. She the main one. She the main one need to be in my office, right? Yeah. Because guess what? What we do is when people walk in the service, we think everything's all good. We think that what they're dealing with, they don't have nothing wrong in their life. Because they smell good, they look good, and they shouting, and the preacher they doing everything. And guess what though? The moment that everything start to hit her, this is what happens. We just pile it on up. And see, now it's getting heavy. Now it's getting heavy. Who's going to step up and help her though? Nobody's going to help her, because guess what? She got it all together. She got it all together. So nobody's going to help her, right? Now she really clowning over here. She really clowning over here. But we don't forget about this one over here. It's getting heavy. It's getting heavy, y'all. She don't even know what to do with it. But this is what happened. When we sit up here and we overlook the one that looks like they got it together, this is what starts to happen.
Come on, teacher. Teach us, dear God. Teach us, dear God.
She starts to fall apart.
Teach, dear
And
God.
now she don't fell apart, and everybody thought she got it all together. My thing is this: who's gonna help her? Who's gonna help her pick up her traumas and say, you know what? You're gonna be okay. I got you. I'm gonna take care of you. We're gonna do this together.
Yes, I am going to help
Yes.
you.
I see what you're going through.
Help you as much as I can.
Whatever you need, just give me a call.
Yeah, I'm going to help you.
Thank you. Okay, you guys go back. Now, again, we want to make this thing plain, because I need y'all to really understand how significant it is when we're going through what we're going through. If we don't get the proper help because we're embarrassed or because we think that nobody cares about us, we'll find ourselves struggling to just get through life. This young lady was in tears. She looks good. She got it all together, but who knows what she deals with. So I need us to stop thinking that because we in church that we don't deal with nothing. I didn't say because you can still believe in God and still go through something. So I need y'all to do that for me. Okay. Next one, Cav. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Look, y'all can ask questions throughout this. Yes, ma'am.
That restriction is extremely strong, because that is very on target for how things work often. Look at God. I am, as you all know, my name is Dell Jones, Reverend Jones's daughter. So obviously you would probably think, oh yeah, everything's okay. She knows God. She's connected. Her father knows God. And I take nothing away from any of that, because that has been the grounding of what has helped get through situations. Yes, absolutely. But life happens. Life happens to all of us. And the expectation is that we deal with it. But mental health and being in a church that has been very expressive about mental health has been very helpful. But it doesn't stop it from happening.
life is going to happen and events come up. So that was a very true statement, because there was a time that it was much more difficult for me to deal with things. But the expectation was that I come into this building and I present a face that nothing is wrong. Everything's okay. And many of us probably have to deal with that in different positions on our jobs, whether we come into this building or even in our homes. If you're that staple in the home, you have to be okay. But you have to also take a minute to check on your mental health. Just take a second before it becomes that illness, because depression is real. Depression is real. And I could go on to share the many events that I've dealt with that could have caused me to be in a depression or could not be in this place where I am right now. So that illustration was very, 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 very touching, because it was very, very true. And the expectation was not that anything was wrong. And for a long time, I thought I had to pretend that it wasn't anything wrong, without looking falling apart or, just coming in. And we've seen the extreme versus the okay. We've seen the extreme, and we know what that looks like. And we know, and we can see, oh, something's wrong. But we can't see it when we dress up and when we smell good and when we put on our makeup and look good. And sometimes my solution to my issues to get up sometime is to make myself look better so I feel better. So I'm probably looking my best on my worst day. So it's very important. Thank God for this ministry. Thank God for this ministry. I came home and I heard it, and I probably almost ran all over this church, because there was touching on some things that I knew needed to be talked about and I knew needed to be addressed. And I'm so thankful that this ministry exists.
Thank you. Thank you. So, how bad is trauma? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, ma'am. The mic is right there.
Good morning, everyone. I am so blessed to be here in this church, and I thank you for coming.
Okay, make sure you guys are speaking into the mic so they can hear you.
I thank you for coming.
Thank you.
It was 15 minutes before 8 o'clock that I planned to come and almost slept through, but I'm here. And what I'm witnessing this morning and hearing is a great, great message. I tough all my trauma. I didn't know what trauma is until today. And I came to the United States in 1985 from Jamaica. So I take all my family here, down to the nieces and nephew. I learned today that I tough all of my trauma in, that I did need to let go. I didn't get much support before I meet my husband, and this husband, Charlie. And and learning today that I have a lot of mending to do, not with my husband, but with my other family members, because I watch over the years how much struggle they stuck in and can't find a way out. And I'm sitting and says, well, I tough all of mine out by myself. Why can't they just do this? Why can't they just do that? But had I not come today, I wouldn't realize how much burden it is on them to pull through. So now, each classes that I take and I learn something, I go back immediately. I don't wait for tomorrow. I don't wait for another day to suggest it to them or help them with it. So now today I can walk out of this class and I can say, this is the way I might help you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So this is, let me explain the neurobiological thing. When I say neurobiological, that I'm just talking about the nerves, I'm talking about the brain, is that things work in three sequences. It's your thoughts, your emotions, and then your behaviors. How you think will trigger your emotions. How you feel will trigger your behavior. So James, you and the wife, come on up here. The ball. So what happens when we encounter relationships with trauma, right? Everybody has a different background. Everybody was brought up different. And then you got two people that come together and they trying to figure this thing out. They got, Miss James got trauma, Mr. James got trauma. But they don't address it. They just pack it down, kind of what she was saying. They kind of put it away. They know that they dealt with something, but they don't know actually how to deal with it, right? So it started to affect their conversation. So they talk to each other, and James may say something real slick to her, and she throwing the neck curls and eyes in the back of, all that kind of stuff, right? But neither one of them realized that their traumas is causing their behavior. Because guess what? James did something to trigger her, and so she started thinking about it again. And so when she started thinking about it again, she started feeling really, really bad for herself. So when she started feeling really, really bad, guess what the action is? Her behavior. She's about to really, really ready to bite his head off. But this is how it works. So normally I would do the tennis match analogy. But because we're not going to be doing any tennis in here, we're going to do the ball. Tennis works, you hit the ball over the net and someone else hits it back to you, right? This right here, just pretend this is tennis. So I need you to get over there, right there, and James, come over here. So I need you guys to hit the ball to each other. Yep, hit it. No, wait. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay, because that's how it actually started, right? That's how it actually started. She ready to get at him. She actually ready to get at him. Hit it underhand. Yeah. Okay, so this is how it works. Keep going. Yeah. That's really how it worked, right? Oh, okay. So go ahead. So go ahead, back and forth. So this is the conversation. They have an actual conversation going back and forth. But what happens when that trauma starts to interfere? Okay. Now, guess what? The traumas don't interfere. They don't know what to do. But guess what? It's okay. Go ahead and pick it up. It's okay for them to go and pick it up and start over again. The problem is when we're in relationships and even friendships, we don't like to start over again. And we think because we had trauma that it's all over. But it's okay to start over again when things go bad. Okay? So, thank you. You good. Okay. Yeah, you can go sit down. So here's the thing with trauma. Mr. Cabot, can you go to the next slide? Here's the thing with trauma. It's not just one specific trauma. Now, I'm about to say some things, guys, and I want you, again, this is a safe place. Trauma comes in many, many, many forms. And a lot of times we overlook it because we're in the church. So there's physical trauma, there's sexual and emotional abuse, child neglect, living with a family member with a mental health or a substance use or disorder, sudden and unexplained separation from a loved one, abandonment, poverty, racism, discrimination, oppression, violence, wars, terrorism, all that stuff. Has anybody taken the ACE in here? You taking the ACE? Anybody else? The ACE, adverse childhood experience. So let me do this. So I know you did, James. I know you did, James. This is the ACE right here. It's simple. It's 10 questions that ask you, did you experience something as a child? 10 questions. Out of those 10 questions, it rates your risk of having this mental health disorder just by basing it off of your trauma experiences. Most of us, let me say this, most of us in here will score at least a 2. Because we've either dealt with some racism, some discrimination, some violence, some oppression, all those things. And so what I want you to understand is that the things that we experience as kids will affect us if we don't get control of it. There's no such thing as fixing anything, because the minute you feel like you fixed it, something else will happen. We live in a world where death is an absolute. It will happen. How we deal with it, how we grieve it, will dictate how we move forward in our life. So we want to make sure. I want you guys to really, really, truly understand that. Yes, sir.
I use, I believe the same thing that you're saying, but I use the disease and disease.
Mm-hmm.
You spell disease, D-I-S hyphen E-A-S-E. That's you disease, you're uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not taken care of, it'll turn to D-I-S-E-A-S-E.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I use when I'm talking to someone, but it's on the same basis.
Yeah, yeah. As long as a person can understand the significance of them actually dealing with it and trying to manage it versus trying to fix it or pack it down. And sometimes we become a volcano. We pack it down so much, and when you least expecting it, it will overflow, and you just have a whole bunch of stuff. And so that's the same thing. So that's the same thing when it comes to anxiety as well, is that things like this happen in the least likely places, when you think you have it all together. We have to be careful that we don't take it for granted, our mental health. Because our mind can be tainted by the stuff that we see, the things that we encounter, to the point we're making decisions based on what we feel versus what's actually going on. Okay? Next one, please. So I just talked to you about the ACEs. So 62% of U.S. adults with at least one ACE, 25% of U.S. adults have at least 3 or more. So I scored, and I always tell people this because, I'm fine with telling them. I scored a 6. So I'm at risk of any type of mental disorder. I'm also at risk of suicidal ideation, meaning I can think about suicide. I will probably move to do it. I'm at risk of that. And I'm not doing it, but I'm just saying I'm at risk of that based on my score. And again, if you actually sat there and took this and be honest with yourself, you'll find that you score pretty high on there. And so we're at a real high risk of gaining these disorders or actually being susceptible to suicide. Yes. I do have a copy. If we can make some copies, and we'll take okay. Reverend Williams gonna make some copies for everybody. That'll be great. So, in doing that though, I need everybody to understand that you need to be able to label your emotions. Okay? If you are feeling stressed, if you are going through stuff, you need to say what you're going through. You need to talk about what you're dealing with. You can't just say I'm frustrated and leave it at that. It goes deeper than that. You can't just say I'm mad and leave it at no. It's a reason why, and you have to be able to identify that. So this is what we call an emotions wheel. This helps you to learn how to start labeling your emotion. It's got 8 areas: angry, disgusted, sad, surprised, fear, and then it has subsets of helping you describe your emotions. The more you can describe your emotions, the better you can be when it comes to identifying what you're actually dealing with. Okay? It's very important that you're able to deal with some of the things that you're dealing with and understand what they are and where they come from. Okay? So these are simply, so I'm going to take one. So I'm going to take trust. And so the word that I'm going to choose is grateful. So I will say something to the effect that I really feel grateful to be here today, because to talk about the significance of mental health. So you have to choose your words. You have to use your words, and you have to articulate your words. Meaning you need to be able to explain what you're actually feeling versus just telling people I'm not doing good. What do you mean you're not doing good? Because just like the young lady was up here, holding all that trauma with her, she couldn't explain it because guess what? Everybody thought she had it together. So you have to be able to explain what you're actually dealing with. It's extremely important because if you don't, then most of us will start guessing and assuming. The worst thing you can do is assume. Yeah. Assume gets you in trouble. So we want to make sure that we're labeling our emotions, okay? So we got like 7 minutes before our break at 10, right? Okay. So, Mr. Cavett, go to the next one, please. No, go back. I'm sorry, go back. Okay, that's good. Okay. So, it says compared to people with no ACEs, individuals with an ACE score of two or more is 2 times as likely to smoke, 2.5 times more likely to have sexually transmitted infection. That goes with impulse decisions. You become impulsive. It says 4 times more likely to have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, heart disease. Then also 7 times more likely to consider themselves as an alcoholic. 10 times as likely to be injected with street drugs, 12 times as likely to have attempted suicide. So from me, anything below from 2 to 7, I'm more susceptible to deal with those type of issues because I scored a 6. I don't want to scare you to not be honest on an ACE though, because the more honest you are on an ACE, that lets you know that you need help in those areas. And now, guess what you can do then? Now you can come see me and we can work through those things. Versus you getting this ACE and you score a 7, but you say you scored a 2. That's a problem in itself. Yes, sir, James. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. The time in which you take the test will dictate what you score. Just what James is talking about. When you take the test, it's going to determine where you are in your life, pretty much. Because like he said, maybe in 2 years from now, because of the stressful events are no longer a part of him, and he's actually started to identify those, he's no longer feeling those same feelings and emotions. Parenting. So let's talk about parenting. As we're talking about adverse childhood experiences, let's talk about parenting. We parent based on how we were parented. Now, that doesn't mean that mom and daddy wasn't wrong. It just means we parent how they parented. And we tend to pass those things down to our kids as well, how we parent them. Okay? And so it's okay to say I parent like my parents, but I've learned that there's some things that I can do different now. Right? If we start to focus on how to build our relationships with our children, then that's how we can more help them not to deal with these adverse childhood experiences. There was one up there that says neglect. Neglect covers a lot. Like if you're not around, if you are in the house but still not present, if you have some opportunity to spend with your child and you choose to do something else. So neglect covers a multitude of things. And so that can be traumatic in itself. Because if I'm reaching out to you as my parent and you're not present, that can be very traumatic to me. You know, come here. So this is really how it works. I'm gonna have my daughter come up here for a second. This is really how it works. This is really how it works. Through the years, the trauma builds up. I don't know if you notice your attitude change throughout the years, right? Things happen. You get more irritable. You get more less patient. You know, things happen. And these adverse childhood experiences start to pile up. But the fact of the matter is that we carry these things around on our back. We carry these things around on our back, and then guess what we do? Is throughout the day, we start to drop little droplets. Y'all remember those? Things start to drop. Yeah, little droplets. Trauma just going everywhere, right? And we don't even know it because we just still walking, right? And folks are starting to see how you act. They just see you all day long, and all your trauma just spilling out. Because you yet to actually notice that, guess what? What happened to me as a kid, it really hurt me. It really made me feel like I was by myself. I cried myself to sleep. Look at my grandson. See? Ain't that right? See? Look. He liked to pick up these balls. But that's what I'm saying. If we're not careful, we carry this stuff around, and it impacts who we interact with, the people we come in contact with. It's very important that you understand where you come from. What your parents taught you, it's okay that it may be wrong, but they did their best. But if you know better, we do better, right? So I want you guys to we're gonna take a break, but I want you guys to know that trauma is very important, and our babies are dealing with stuff that we just need to sit down and talk with them, have conversation, build relationship. That's everything about mental health is about building relationship. If you're not in the right frame of mind, it's hard for you to build a relationship. So we're gonna take how many minutes? We said 10 minutes or 15 minutes? Okay, so we tend, if we give people 15 minutes, people start to go home. So we ain't gonna let y'all go home. Let's take 5 minutes and we'll pick back up, okay? And I always tell people that. So we're gonna get ready to get started again. You guys have your aces. Oh yeah, you can look. You can definitely get look. You can definitely get one of my waters. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sister Malone's supposed to be making copies of them. So we're gonna get ready to get started again. I gave Sister Malone the color wheel. She said she's gonna make some copies of the color wheel, and if anybody else needs them, we'll definitely get copies of them. I don't know if she's still downstairs making copies or whatever. Okay, so Miss Joyce said something when I was doing the demonstrations with the balls, and my little grandson was picking up the balls, and it's so profound that she drew the correlation, is that if we're not careful, our kids will bear the trauma that we have. The generational trauma that we go through and that we deal with, if we're not careful, that's going to go through a lineage of our kids and grandkids and great grandkids, and it's not going to stop. So we have to make sure that we are careful in what we deal with, or if we're not dealing with it, because the residual effect will affect our babies. Yes, ma'am.
I'll just to add to that too, it's also when you were doing the demonstration, is that as I'm saying African American people, we was always told, what goes on in my house stays in my house. So with that, it's never expressed outside, and when it's expressed outside, it's a behavior versus what was happening.
So I'm gonna challenge you on that. Think about that. So she says we were always taught what happens in our house stays in our house, right? I don't know if y'all remember me back in April when I came over here and I did what happens in the house stays in the house, or does it? Because as quiet as kept, as much as you try to keep it in the house, you don't keep it in the house. Because our behaviors shows us what's actually happening in your house. Now, if I got an attitude and I don't know how to treat folks, I imagine something going on in my household that makes me think that I can treat people any kind of way. So not because you have something happening in your house don't mean that it's going to stay there. You can tell them, don't tell this and don't do this and don't do that, but most of the time it comes out. So there is no way you can withhold that. So I want you guys to think about something. Mr. Cabot, go to emotional intelligence, please. So there's this new term within the last 5 to 10 years called emotional intelligence. Think about what I just said, emotional intelligence. So, in a nutshell, emotional intelligence is you being able to identify your emotions and emotions of others. Why would that be important? It's important because if you don't know how to identify your emotions, guess what? How you interact with people will cause a problem. It's important that you know how to deal with you so you can deal with others. Your emotions are yours, and you have to make sure that you're able to deal with yours. Because if you can't deal with yours, you definitely can't deal with others. So it's very important. So what entails emotional intelligence? Self-awareness, meaning being able to be aware of what you deal with, what you struggle with, what you are challenged with. Self-regulation, knowing how to regulate your emotions. That's the biggest thing that we struggle with, is learning how to regulate our emotions so we don't take it out on someone else. Do you know that I'm talking about us, church folks, we are some mean folks? Y'all know that. Come on now. Y'all know. We some mean folks. And don't let them sit in your seat. Uh-oh, I'm starting something. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But what do you think the attitude comes from? What do you think the thought process of I can treat people any way, any kind of way? Now we're supposed to be Christians, right? We're supposed to treat people like Jesus treated people, right? Jesus healed all kind of folks. Folks that had diseases, he wasn't even supposed to be close to them. So, but we treat people like our trauma treat people. What if I told you that I can see your trauma before I see you? How you interact with people tells me what the trauma that you deal with. Now, we're going to talk about this in a minute, about the difference between counseling and talking to a friend. Because at the end of the day, there are some things that I'm trained to do that I didn't know before I was trained to do it, so I couldn't do it. So why am I saying that? It's because you have to learn how to check yourself before you can learn how to deal and operate with everyone else. It's extremely important that you understand. It's the song, the old William Brothers song, "Sweep Around Your Own." Yeah, before you try to sweep around mine. We have to make sure that we are in tune with us first. So your lifelong work is to check you first before you can have a positive conversation or relationship with someone else. It's extremely important. So not only does emotional intelligence work with self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation. Motivation is being able to strive to want to see someone else do better. So I'm motivated to see you guys want to do better. I'm motivated to see you guys understand the significance of mental health and mental illness. So my motivation is that I want to see you guys grow. So so when you're talking about emotional intelligence, we're talking about it from a standpoint of I'm working on me first. And not only am I working on me, I'm also praying and trying to get you guys to a point. So I'm excited about that. I'm motivated about that. So I want to make sure that you guys understand that my emotional intelligence starts with me. How we interact with anyone starts with you. So if you know that you have an attitude, you need to start with you. If you know you don't like certain things, it starts with you. You know that some of the things that you do is contrary to what God has for us to do, it starts with you. You cannot build a positive relationship with anyone until you build one with yourself. Now, and I'm going to add this, is you have to have a foundation. If you have a foundation with Christ, guess what? He will help you with you. We try so much to do it on our own, and we can't do that. So we have to make sure that we understand our emotional intelligence is very important. Go to the next slide, please. Our emotional intelligence is very important. So we talked about self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy. Empathy, it sounds like a big fancy word, but all it means is I can relate to you. That's all that says. All empathy is if I was in your shoes, this is what I would do, or I understand why you're doing this. Okay? We can't forget the struggle we've had because we can put a few clothes in the closet. we have to know that empathy should be at the forefront of what we do. We got to understand where people are. People are struggling. And you remember when you struggled? Yeah. You remember how it felt. So we have to make sure that we are able to show empathy toward people. And the last one is social skills. You got to know how to communicate with people. You can't just go around the world just snapping on folks and just telling them what's first thing on your mind. I ain't like that. I tell people how okay. Really? I just give it to them how I give it to them. You know, you can't do that. You need to be able to use your words. You need to be able to articulate your thoughts, your emotions. You can't just tell people that. You can't just, it's two people in the world that I know that can smile at you, look at you, and probably tell you a whole bunch of stuff. That's Sister Malone and my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law, when I first met her, she was so just meek and real calm and nice, but she had a way of telling you where to go, even though she knew how to talk. It's how you talk to people. You build your social skills. Social skills mean it's how I socialize with other people that are not like me. And so it's okay that they're not like you. You have to learn how to adjust. Conversations are different with everyone. My conversation may be different with Reverend Jones than it is with Sister Malone. But I can articulate on both ends. So you have to learn how to use your social skills. And we learn them. Sometimes we just don't want to use them. We just throw them out the window. We're like, I can just talk to them any kind of way. So we want to make sure that we learn how to use our emotional intelligence, meaning how intelligent we are about our emotions, how in tune we are about our emotions, so we can also understand how other people are dealing with some of the things that they're dealing with. Next slide, please. So, couple things. So these are called reflective exercises. Who knows about journaling? Journaling is one of the saviors, because all that stuff that you have up here, put it on the page. I know some people like, I don't want people to pick up my journal, right? That's okay. That's okay. Those are yours. I'm going to tell you a story. My wife is here too, and I'm going to tell the story. She don't like me to tell it, but I'm going to tell it anyway. So I'm a journal man, and I got a bunch of journals, right? And I keep a journal in my bag. I keep a journal in my car, in my glove box. I keep a journal in both of my office, and I keep a journal in my office at home, because I like to write. I love to write. And this is my stress reliever, is I write. So one day, somebody gonna pick up my journal and read it. Now, we wasn't doing so good, y'all. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be transparent, right? This is my self-care. So she picks up my journal and she starts to read it. She's like, "Oh, you said all this about me? I can't believe it." And I told her, I said, you have to look at the date and remember what we were going through at that time, right? But that helped me to get through whatever we were dealing with at the time. And then for me to even look back on it, like, man, look what God has really done, So I always recommend journaling, man. It is so awesome. I know people like, that's corny, that's this and that. To get those thoughts out of your head, have anybody ever got a text from somebody and was upset and they was like, okay, I'm about to text somebody, right? And you get to texting and you texting and then you like, no, I ain't gonna send that, right? This is my text right here, right? I can put whatever I want to in here and they don't even have to see it. So journaling is a great reflective tool. Is to think about some of the things that you've been through, and especially for us Christians, God has really brought us from a mighty long way. And to be able to write this stuff down and keep it and just go back and reflect on it, it's awesome. So that's one thing, journaling. Second thing is emotional checklist, right? You can write you a checklist and you can start to use your color wheel and start to describe some things in your journal. You can just do a checklist. Those are, we call those the brief journals where you can do a checklist. Okay, this is what's going on. This is what I felt. This is this. And checklist. You can do that every day. The next thing is a mood tracking app. So I have an app on my phone. Let me see my phone, please. I have an app on my phone that one of my pastor friends and I use throughout the week. And we use this to keep up with each other, to make sure we're doing okay. And it's called the How I Feel app. So this app here on our phone that I use to tell him how I feel during the day. So throughout the day, we text each other, we get on the app, and the thing is, see that? So the app asks us how we're doing throughout the day. It says highly motivated in this or least motivated in this, and it tells us that. And once I push on one of those, let me show you, it gives me options. Gives me a bunch of options to tell my friend this is how I'm doing today. And once I choose one, it stores it in there and it sends it straight to him. Now, here's the thing with that. If he's not doing well, I can pick up the phone and call him. But if he's doing really good, I can see he's doing good. I don't even have to call him. That's an awesome tool to use when you don't want to, you don't want to invade people's privacy, but you want to check on them. Yes, ma'am. Yes, it should be an app. If you go to your app store, it is how I feel. Mm-hmm. Okay. You got it? Okay. All right. Yes, ma'am. It's how we feel. It's got like a little heart with a different color. How we feel. How we feel. You got it? There you go. And you can share that with as many people as possible. You can share that with as many people as possible. So it's just me and my pastor friend on there that does that. Yes, ma'am.
I started a job about 9 days ago. Really, I trained for it before they.
Mm-hmm.
And this app would have really helped me.
All right.
Now, I went on that job, y'all. I thought, give me some money. Take me a vacation. I ain't gonna take nothing out of the house. But y'all, I got on there. Nobody told me that I was gonna be dealing with mentally challenged children and handicapped. Now, if I'd have saw that before I got in, I never would have went.
Right.
But now I got in the middle of it, and I'm not lying to y'all. I needed to go on an app and tell somebody. I don't know what to do. I ain't never seen nothing like that. And I would have ran if I could have. And when I got my verse, all I can say, I don't care how long y'all love each other. You better be honest with this.
Yeah.
God will let you walk in the summer, run you crazy.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a foundation,
Yep.
and I got in the middle of this, I couldn't come and talk to Peter about that. Peter don't know what I'm going through. But he probably said, you went up there. You went up there. And then let me show you how God done it. I'm going to sit down. God done it this way. Now, I'm up there, and they show me just the headings of it. They don't go into detail. What's going to happen? Oh, now I love children. Anybody know me? No? I ain't got to tell you. But they just went over the heading. They didn't go into nothing detail. Brother Thomas, I get on the bus. What am I do with this?
Yes, ma'am.
I was thinking as Sister Washington was talking, I was working for a temporary agency
Here are the mics.
about 40 years ago, and
Yeah. So they can hear you. There you go.
again, I was working at a temporary agency, and so the agency sent me to Janet Waddle's Mental Health Center. And so when I got down there, I noticed, you know, the individuals that were coming in and out really did suffer with mental illness. But you know, God, that's how God let me know that was my gift.
Wow. Wow.
When I got down to the center, I fell in love with the work. And he put it on my heart to go back to school and get my degree in that area. Wow. And so I was just thinking as she was talking, we never know how God is leading us to the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And once we get there, that he will show us that I've already equipped you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because that's really, to be honest with you, if you hadn't grown up knowing what you want to do in life, most of the time you just fall into, excuse me, in these different areas. And that's really how I got here. I mean, I fell into it just like with Sister Malone. And I loved it. I went to school for business. And yes, ma'am.
God showed me I want the new building up, but I'm putting other folks to work. I said, they gonna help a lot, sure. It's got a problem. Marriage problem. I'm not ready with people. I said, then they gonna get some bilingual people, which my cousin already, principal at the school, she can do that. And God said, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? He done looked right at me. He said, you talking about that building or something. Now I'm looking for other stuff. I'm telling y'all. God put me there because I'm going to put y'all to work with me. But he said to me, because I'm letting you learn, you're going to have to use it. Go in that building a little bit.
Yeah.
It's on its way.
Yeah.
But then I can't use it for me. I see the virtue.
Yeah.
And then not only that, I'm going on home with you. And I don't want to leave this world.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't got it.
Thank you. That it's awesome to see the heart of people, and when you're working in this field, it's all your heart. It's not about money. It's all your heart, your compassion and your caring for people, because you can't do this without caring for people. You just cannot do it. So aside from the app, one thing that I want you guys to do is get someone that you are accountable to. You have to be accountable to somebody that can tell you the honest truth about you, that's not going to hold nothing back, that's going to tell you when you wrong, and also be there and love you when you're right. If you think you're doing every single thing right, that's already a problem. So find someone that you can be accountable to, and especially when we're talking about mental health. When you're struggling and going through this, and this is for the men, our favorite word is I'm good. But really, are you really good? And that's something that we have to dig deeper and ask ourselves, when we say we're good, are we just going through the motions saying we're good, or are we really good? I take breaks. I do self-care. So we got ready to go to Mexico, and my wife asked me. I said I was gonna get my nails done. Yeah. She said, "You gonna get your feet done too?" And I said, I don't know. So I get into the place, right? I see women everywhere, right? And I see this one brother sitting there. He said, he looks up to me and he busts out laughing. He said, I'm so glad I ain't the only one getting my feet done. But self-care, taking care of yourself, being selfish. Now there is a way to be selfish in a good way. That means you taking care of your mental and you. Because if you can't take care of you, you definitely don't have anything to give anyone else. So self-care is very important. Take care of yourselves. Get somebody you're accountable to. Find somebody that really you're going to allow them to tell you the truth and you're going to be okay. Maybe you don't like it, but they're going to still be that person, your person. It's important that you do that, because if you think you're doing it all good, no. And I'm going to be honest with you too. Now, Pastor Malone might get me for saying this. Don't get your pastor, because look, it's some stuff you ain't gonna want to tell your pastor. I'm just telling you, it's some stuff you ain't gonna want to tell your pastor. But if you got you somebody, a buddy or somebody that talk about man stuff, women stuff, it's okay not to talk to your pastor about that. Now, he is praying over you, but at the same time, it's some stuff I probably wouldn't want to tell my pastor. I'm just saying. So I'm just saying, get someone you're accountable to, and they can be accountable to you. Okay? It's very important that you do that. Mr. Cabot, you can go to the next one, please. Okay, so one of the things that's extremely important when you guys are working with your spiritual guidance ministry and anyone else, is called active listening. Okay? If you don't do anything or learn anything else, learn how to active listening. This is how it works. I'm talking, you're fully listening. You're not coming up with ideas in your head. You're not thinking about how you're going to respond. You're just listening. You're internalizing, and then you're responding. You're active listening. You're not coming up with things in your head. And when they're done, you internalize what was said, and you respond accordingly. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Most of the time, when you listen without actually listening, you don't hear the full story. And when you don't hear the full story, there's potential for risk. Because you may respond to one part of it, but then there's a whole nother part that you missed out on. So when you're active listening, what you're doing is you're in tune with that person. And then you do something what we call parroting, meaning you heard what they said and then you repeat it back to them. So what I heard you say was whatever you said. When you do that, individuals feel that they heard. And that's what you really want them to hear, right? You want them to feel heard. So not only are you active listening and then you internalize it and then you're responding, you're also parroting back so they can understand that you heard them clearly. It also gives people opportunity to say, no, I didn't say that, or no, I didn't mean that. This is what I meant. That's effective communication. And that's great active listening skills. So always being able to hear clearly and then articulate back what you've heard. Okay? Yes, sir. They ain't listening. They ain't listening. They ain't listening. One of the things that I had to work extremely hard on going to school, we had what we called a skills class. And me, because I was already in the field, we had a lot of younger people into the cohort with me. And so we were in skills class, and it's like that window right there that Reverend Cavett is in. And people can see inside there. And one of the problems I had was finishing other people's story. And the professor would always say, Kevin, I need you to listen to what they're saying so you can be ready to respond. And I had a real hard time because I'm a fixer. I'm a problem solver. We got any problem solvers in here? Yeah. So when you want to solve a problem, your wheels are turning when you hear somebody talking, right? And I'm ready to go, and he's like, don't. You have to be careful when you're listening to people that you hear the full story. Because that's what we're there for. We're there to hear, and then we also are there to let them know that they're heard. We're there to hear and they make sure they're heard. So you want to make sure you use your active listening skills. Yes, sir.
I had to deal with a triple diagnosed son. He was schizophrenic, drug abuse, and I can't hardly get it out, but HIV positive, triple diagnosed. People wonder why today that I joke so much. That's my outlet. That's my outlet. See, when dealing with him, Dr. Hamill, which was down at Janet Waddles, he said, how you deal with that? And I pointed up. It was only God. See, that son threatened me every day to kill me. Every day he threatened me to kill me. I'm still here. But what he said was, if you all don't mind, I'm going to tell you what he said. He said, the voices told him to kill my daddy. He said, y'all must be a D-fool. I ain't going to kill the only man that really loved me. Now, he answered the voices. So you get what I'm saying. You're dealing with this person, and he could count money to the half cent. Now, I'm not joking. He could count money to the half cent. You might think he's crazy, but he can count money. And so when you're in charge of his money, you better make sure you know what you're doing, because he's going to count that money to the half cent. So dealing with that, so I took on the responsibility of myself, taking care of Robert. Taking care of him is one thing, but taking care of Robert is another. You have to be on the top to really understand where he's coming from. He might cuss you out one minute, threaten to kill you one minute, and right there the next minute apologizing and begging your pardon. So when you're dealing with it, if you're not careful, it'll drag you under. So in place of me dragging me under, I joke it off and keep going. I'm not telling everybody to do that, but that's me. That's my outlet.
Thank you. You didn't have to do that. I appreciate that. It's so important that y'all take care of yourself, because your mind is probably, if not the biggest muscle that you have. And if you do not take care of your mind, it has a tendency to take over you. And to be to the point where an alternative world takes over you, it's heartbreaking because you can't do anything about it. But what you can do is take care of you. We deal with stuff, and people deal with stuff that affects the entire family. Substance abuse is one thing that affects the entire family. Anxiety affects the entire family. PTSD affects the entire family. If we're not careful and we allow it to overtake us, we cannot afford not to. We live in a time, it's no different than when it was 1960, other than we're dealing with different things now. And we're dealing with things that we can't see. And it's important that we understand the significance of mental health and mental illness, and not look at people in a way that they are aliens. Yes, ma'am.
during the pandemic, I found myself dealing with anxiety. And that was something that I had never dealt with before. I used to be very like, okay, I got this, everything's gonna be okay. Well, I didn't know that disabling feeling of fear, and it was disabling because I became a single mother. I have these boys who are depending on me, and then I got COVID. And people were dying, and people were dying, and I was afraid that I was going to die. And then it was overwhelming, and I was taking care of them and trying to go to work because I was still a worker who was, what was it at the time?
Essential worker?
Essential worker. So I worked in a field that I still needed to be present with people, and I worked in an area where people didn't believe COVID was real, so they had a different hue than us. And so they were like, that's not real, and come in there with their mask off, and I caught COVID from these people who didn't think COVID was real. And it was disabling. And the fear that took over me was disabling. And when it was time to go back to work, I was terrified. And it was a time that we were isolating. So I couldn't call for someone to come over and sit with my boys. My boys couldn't go to someone else's house or, like any of that. And it wasn't because nobody wanted to. It was because we couldn't at the moment. And so, you're in this struggle. But I had this overwhelming anxiety. And when I was going back and forth to the doctor, that's what she told me it was. It was anxiety. And I would have panic attacks. Never have I experienced that before because, I'm a Christian. I can pray this away. I got this. I know what to do. And I had to allow the doctor to prescribe me a low dose medication. I don't need that. I got God. But you know what? I said, yes, I do need that to regulate what's happening in this moment. And with the grace of God, I no longer have to take it. But in that moment, I needed to accept what was happening. And I couldn't even talk about it to anyone. I had one person I could talk about it with, and I found that accountability because they also struggle with the issue themselves. But otherwise, it was always, you got this, you're going to be all right, get strong, And I was like, yes, but something is not feeling right. And I say all of that to say, my doctor did have to say, take care of yourself. I was a mom, I was this, I was that, and everything. And sometimes women, this room is a little bit saturated with us, so I'm going to speak to you. We do tend to take on those responsibilities of everybody else, or even caregivers. I won't even put that just on women, but we take care of everyone else. But we have to pause because in that moment I realized that those boys needed me. I can't be there if I'm not there. If I don't take care of myself, I was not going to be there for them. Or I was going to allow myself into a state that they would have to care for me. And, having lost my mother, I understood the importance. And that was a piece of my anxiety. I don't want to die. And then I leave these boys here by themselves. I know what I went through. All of those things. But I had to allow in that moment. And it took prayer. Prayer is important, but it was prayer and therapy. It was prayer and making sure that, because he even had to condition me as the therapist is telling me I'm paying her. Yeah, she's telling me what to do. But I still was like, because that's not what I was raised on. You talking about take some medicine. I'm not letting those substances control my mind. But we talked about it, and I was vocal. I shared that I was nervous about that. And she then was able to use her knowledge, her God-given knowledge, to say that there are different doses of this. There are different degrees of this medication. There are some that heavily medicate you, that do make you like a zombie. Then there are those that are, all of those things that we have. So express that. Talk about that. And if one person isn't listening to you, find you another doctor. Find you someone else. But in that, yes, caring for yourself is so extremely important because I couldn't do anything for anybody else if I didn't take care of myself first. With all of that to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just because you, can you take a mic back there? Just because you go to therapy or you have a therapist doesn't mean that you don't love God. Just because you take medicine doesn't mean that you no longer believe in God. God places people in places that could help us. They're there for a reason. They're there for a reason. Yes.
I just wanted to say, like, when it comes to mental health, it's very real. A lot of us aren't aware of it, especially like young adults, if that makes sense. Coming up in a home where your parent always says, there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing wrong with you, and then you go to school and then you can't deal with what you got going on at home at school by being a young child, and then you go to school, you act out because you're trying to deal with what you're going through and you don't understand. And then it's the family that bring you to church and they like, well, God is gonna do this, God is gonna do that. Now, that's not what I needed to hear at the time, if that makes sense. Now, I need you to give me a godly perspective, and I need you to show me also what are the sources that I can use so I can come out of what I got going on and what I'm dealing with. So I will be better to help other people, if that makes sense. Now, I work in the healthcare field, so I work with people with disabilities and mental challenges, and being a person that has that, they be like, well, how can you deal with them? In other words, I'm not dealing with them, I'm helping them cope because they're helping me cope. So it took someone in the church to tell me like, oh, it's okay to have medication and it's okay to get help to help balance you out, and then apply God to what you got going on. But instead, the people that I felt like I was looking up under, they wasn't doing their godly part and their resources to help me. It's always, you're going to hell because you're doing this, you're doing this. So you're taking my mental illness or my mental health and turning it and using it a weapon upon me because you're dealing with something and you didn't get help for what you're dealing with. So I watched my mom struggle. I watched my mom, I remember at like 10, my mom wake me up out the bed. I slept with her probably till I was 14. But she wake me up like, I can't breathe. Talk me out of this. And I'd be like, well, Mom, what's wrong? Mom, what's wrong? She'd be like, I'm having an anxiety attack. Or I hear my mom like freak out, like, but I didn't know what it was. And I'm like, Mom, what's wrong? I kept asking her, like, what's wrong? She's like, I'm just having an anxiety attack. I'm like, well, it's something that can help. Ain't nothing they can do. It is something they can do. Don't allow people to tell you that there's nothing that they can do, or don't allow people to tell you that you're fine, you just acting out, or you're just showing out, or you want to be like this. It's something for something. Everything that goes with mental health can be worked out, no matter if it's a counselor, no matter if it's medication, no matter what the situation may be, and it's okay to get help. Everybody ain't gotta be in your business. Everybody you ain't gotta tell everybody about what you're going through. Just know that if you wanna be better, that's what you reach out for, because there is resources.
Thank you. Did y'all heard that, right? Y'all heard that. You have to make sure that we're not making matters worse for our young people. Because they're young, they go through things too. And we love to say, you ain't going through nothing. You ain't lived long enough, all that stuff. So, go ahead.
All right. You guys heard me earlier when I say that how tough I have to tough it out, right? Way back then. Mental health is real, anxiety is real, depression is real. How do I know? Way back then, in 1994, coming up through the year, I have terrible anxiety. I didn't know if it was depression, because I don't know what depression did mean. I didn't know what anxiety did mean. But every month, the palpitation of the heart speed up. You lost your pulse, blood pressure went up. What else is happening? You're not aware of it, but you're sick. sick enough, I was sick enough to call the ambulance 2 times a month with it. The last time the ambulance, when I wake up in my bed, my husband said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I don't know what's wrong." He said, "Well, lay down back, nothing wrong." I said, "Something is wrong." I wake up and I feel like I'm out of this world with the palpitation. And we call the ambulance. When we call the ambulance, they come. Guess what? They couldn't find no pulse. They said, "Miss Lewis, can you walk to the bathroom?" I said, "No, I feel like if I get up and go in the bathroom, I cannot come back. I will be gone." They say, "All right, stay right there." They put me on the stretcher, take me out, put me in the ambulance. They sit for a while trying to find pulse. They couldn't find no pulse. They said, let's go. We can't find no pulse. Let's go." That's what I heard. They said, "Breathe into this tube." I take in, but I couldn't let out. No air. That's how sick I was with this. Either anxiety or depression. I don't know. And but because there was no other illness that's going on. And I went to the doctor. Every time they patch me up, giving me medicine that's sweet, they send me home. The next month, it happened. Get in the parking lot, my husband says, drive the car. I said, "Drive, go where?" My mind is gone. I'm just sitting there looking, staring. That's how bad I was in some of those episodes. And I tell you what, I learned after they put me on this anxiety pill, I learned how, my doctor said, if you stay happy, that means you will recover. I have to leave my husband. That's why I told you it will destroy your life. It will destroy you. I leave my husband and go to New York and live 2 years. And within that time period, I find out that I'm going to work over there and don't need no medication because I call myself happy. You see what I mean? And I come back to him. After I come back to him, I don't need medication anymore. The anxiety is gone. I learned how to deal with it. And it is, if you stay happy. If you stay happy, you don't need no pill. But you got to recover. It's like a drug addict. You come away from it and you remember what it's like and you won't go back. Don't try to let anything depress you. Just stay on the happy side and you will be healed. Look to God though. I want to tell you that there's times I sit and I see dark grave, headstone. I told you I tough it out before I know what it is. God is good and I stay happy with the Lord on my side. I am happy. And try not to let, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but you have to fight that fight to stay with the Lord because that's the only thing that I find in my life that make me happy with my marriage. Stay with him and you won't need those pills. God is good, you all.
All right. So, okay. So we're going to move forward. Did you have something? Okay, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Sing out the way we started. Oh. Well, when it's time to go, I got you. When it's time to go, you want to sing This Little Light of Mine. Okay. All right. Music is therapy. We were talking about, you can go to the next slide. We were talking about anxiety and all these other disorders. Anxiety is debilitating. It can take you out. And it can come when you least expecting it. You find yourself in a panic attack in the middle of Walmart, in the middle of church service. If you don't tend to your mental health, you will find that it will happen in places that you don't want folks to know. And you can't do nothing about it. So if you don't take care of yourself, look for it to show up. It's going to show up. And when it show up, you're not going to feel comfortable. Okay? So go to the next one, please. Next one. And so now let's talk about what's the difference between counselors and therapists, or counseling and therapy. Okay. So in smaller terms, Counseling is a profession. Counseling is a profession. Therapy is an approach. Therapy is an approach. Counseling is the profession of counseling. That's why we're called professional counselors, not professional therapists. Therapy comes from the word psychotherapy. Psychotherapy means the mind, right? And so a lot of us use therapy instead of saying psychotherapy, right? It's an approach, and I'm going to tell you about some of these approaches a little bit later on. When we talk in terms of counseling, we're also talking in terms of one specific issue that we're dealing with. Not only that, it's usually short term too. Okay, so if you have a stress in your family, we're dealing specifically with the stress in your family. When we're talking about therapy, we're talking about multiple things that could lead to disorders. That's what, and we're doing that from a therapeutic approach or a theoretical orientation, how we view the world. Okay, so when we do therapy, we have what we call a theoretical orientation, where my orientation may be something to the effect of cognitive behavior therapy, right? So my approach to dealing with your issues will be from the thinking perspective, right? It would be from the perspective of thoughts, changing your thinking, okay? Or I can deal with it from what they call a dialectical, meaning is what's called DBT. Dialectical mean is emotional, okay? So I can deal with your emotion from emotional and a spiritual. That's why a lot of people like to use DBT, because it allows you to bring in those spiritual elements, okay? So me personally, I deal with both of those, and I also add another element, which is existential. Existential is meaning of life. So if we're sitting doing a counseling session, I'm usually talking to you from a perspective of thought and also emotion and also what it means to you. Does that make sense to you guys? So I'm bringing all of those therapeutic approaches to a counseling session. So now I'm talking to you from more than one perspective. It's not just strictly about your crisis moment. Now we're getting in depth, and also I'm giving you tools to work through those things as we talk about those. Okay? So y'all got me. Y'all follow me, right? When you do therapy, your approach has to be indicative, meaning it has to be similar to what that person is actually dealing with. You cannot just take an approach and say, okay, I'm just going to deal with this because, this is my orientation. You still must find a way to adjust, to use those techniques with whatever that person is dealing with. Okay? They have other approaches that you can use. They use expressive therapy, which is art, music, writing, poetry. Those things are really good with young people. Expressive art is really, really good with young people because young people are very expressive. They want to be able to express themselves. They're a lot different than a lot of us when we were growing up. They're open to expressing themselves. To some degree, overly emotional and willing to try some things. So, but at the same time, those type of things allow you to get closer to the young people. They have play therapy, where you can talk to, you can do play therapy. We do what we call sand tray. So if you do sand tray with kids, what happens is with kids in play therapy is you give them a bunch of figurines and they use them in the sand. And if you sit and you watch the kids play with these different figurines, it usually shows you and tell you a lot of the things that they deal with. Now again, to the normal, whatever normal is, you wouldn't pick that up. But if you've been trained to look for certain things, then guess what? You'll start to pick up on little things. They may pick up a male doll or something, and it said something, and they may say something in the course of playing with that male doll. Or they may pick up a car and say, okay, this is when dad did this, and just imaginary things. Kids get imaginary when you put them in an element where they can be creative. And if you're careful, as your spiritual guidance, if you're careful, you can see some things going on without them even saying anything. So these are approaches, and you guys can still learn these approaches, although you're not licensed, but you can still learn these approaches, but you have to be careful when you use them, though. So you have to be trained thoroughly with that, because it's your liability if you use it the wrong way, because we have a tendency to hurt the kids. So we want to be extremely careful with that. So those are, yes, ma'am.
That's what I said too, Reverend. When I saw them kids, I said, Lord, they done put me on this bus. They didn't put me, I got on that bus. And I said, Lord, I don't bid them know what I'm doing. I'm going to mess around. I ain't going to tell you no lie. Them first 2 days, I was just scattered.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said a normal, Reggie told me one time, Mama, you kind of sheltered. You don't know what's going on out here. And when I saw this, listen, y'all, I said, Lord, don't let me hurt these children. Because, see, I'm not going to physically hurt them. But the teacher here can tell you, when they are like that, my voice is heavy.
Yeah.
And it carries. So I'm learning now. I got to come on down.
Mm-hmm.
Come on down. But I had to look around 2 days to see how I was going to address these children.
Mm-hmm.
And God showed me, Shoni, you're going to have to bring some of that bass out of your voice and talk to them, because that nerves them up. Now, not all of them, but some of them. And I got, and to what Sister Monica and all I'm saying, I know for a fact these children is coming out of $400,000 and $500,000 home. Don't look like nothing wrong. They come out with 2 dogs and a cat. Don't look like nothing wrong. I said to my husband, there's some stuff covered up out here. There's some stuff covered up out here. And when I say that, it's some stuff was covered up in me. There were days I couldn't come to church. I didn't want to be bothered with nobody. But I didn't know what it was. But it made me sick. I didn't feel like talking. I don't want to talk. But by the grace of God, I'm here today.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yep, there you go.
Reverend Thomas, I truly want to say thank you, because God has just laid it on my heart to bring the children and start ministering to the children here at this church. Because we have so many varied thoughts from therapists and counselors. Now, we won't try to do the therapy. We won't try, we'll do basic counseling or more assessment than anything. But you helped me, because I actually met with a child not too long ago, and I did some therapy with some toys. And it was effective. But because I have not been trained in children, only adults, you have helped me to see we need to put something in place with these children. I didn't really understand that it could be that destructive for the children if we did not do it properly.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
One of the first things that I do, Sister Malone, I'm glad you said that, is that anytime I go into any therapy session, I always say a prayer to myself. And my prayer is, Lord, don't let me hurt them, and don't let them hurt me. I don't want to hurt anyone for what I say or how I approach their struggles. And so I'm making sure that I'm conscious that there is potential for me to hurt that individual. And so I don't want to do that. So at the end of the day, you have to make sure that, again, I've told you before, I don't do this apart from God. I don't. I'm different, and I'm built different, and I know that. I know that, and so I carry him with me. That's what sets me apart from other people. I don't think I'm any better, but I just know that my God is big, and no matter what situation I'm in, I'm there because He put me there. So that's why I do that. But when it comes to kids, though, it doesn't have to be a straight dialogue. Most adults, you go back and forth with you banter with talk, but most kids is putting the right toys in front of them and allowing them to show you by how they display that. Chalk. A lot of the little girls, you can take chalk and let them write on the sidewalk. They'll play things out. So one of the disturbing things that I've heard this week from one of my clients, she was 12 years old. She says to me, I asked her, I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? She says to me, I want to be like my mom. But here's the catch. I want to be a single mother. I want to be like my mom. I want to be a single mother. I told my wife this the other day. Those are the stories and those are the individuals that we have to reach. For her to think like that. No one is really getting her and saying, baby, this is not how you should be doing, so on and so on. We have so many young people that think like that, but we're the ones that have been there, so we know. We have to find a way to reach them, not push them away, not say that they're bad. Now, here's the thing. Most kids that we say bad, something else is going on. And we get lazy. I'm going to say this. We get lazy and just say they're bad because we don't want to deal with them. That's what we do. And so what we have to do is, if we say we're here to help, then we need to help. And if we're not going to help, don't hurt. Just walk away and do what you're going to do, but don't hurt these babies. Because these babies are vulnerable. They don't know. They haven't lived life. So we cannot exclude what they're dealing with and what they're experiencing. I mean, even up to the 18, even up to the young adults, they still got a ways to go too. So we have to be present with them. But I couldn't imagine at 12 years old saying I want to be a single mother. And so that was one of the things. I get those all the time, but sometimes it gets to the point where my heart just bleeds and just cries out when I hear those type of things. And so I had to continue to talk to her and really see what her understanding what a single mother was. And her understanding that her mama was doing really good. She's seen the good stuff. We still get clothes, we still do this, we do that. But she don't know what mama really dealing with. And so we have to make sure that we're not pushing our babies away, we're pulling them in. Because at the end of the day, if we're not careful, we can hurt them more than we can help them, okay? Ms. Cabot, you can go to the next one, please. So, go to the next one, please. So, therapy sessions. Counseling sessions last typically 45 to 50 minutes. 45 to 50 minutes, because usually we try to give room for the next person that we're seeing, and if we need to write any notes that we have for that session. They typically 8 to 12 weeks. 8 to 12 weeks, that varies. That's not the case for everybody, because some people may come in with severe mental illness or just a crisis. They need a little bit longer, but most of the time, typically from 8 to 12 weeks, and it can be longer. Everybody's situation is different, and so there's no cookie cutter way of doing anything. So, but that's kind of how long a therapy session goes. Again, Ms. Cabby, you can go to the next one. Oh, he walked out. But so I think. So medication. Let's talk about medication. So medication is the last resort. Medication, Ms. Cabby, you can go to the next one. When it comes to medication, you want to try to work through it first. You want to try to be in therapy for a little bit, learn yourself, learning what works for you, what helps you. And then if you still are in those type of, have those feelings and it hasn't gotten any better, then usually I'll recommend medication. I don't ever, that's not ever the first thing. And then I also always start off on the lowest dosage. You always want to start off on a lower dosage because then you can scale up. If you start on a high, then you have to come down, and it's just a whole another ball game. And so, and then timing, medication, taking it at a certain time. You know, some are extended release. Like usually, extended release, you'll take it in the morning, it lasts throughout the day, and then you start to wind down. And then some you take at evening, so in the morning when you get up, it's already in your system. So it just depends on what medication you need. Some are on high doses because their tolerance level, their body chemistry allowed them to have higher levels of medication. But you want to start with the lowest doses just to kind of gauge yourself. Always talk about side effects. Let your psychiatrist know of any side effects. If you have any side effects, they need to either change the medication or change the dosage of the medication. Don't ever abruptly stop taking it and say, I don't want to take it no more, I'm done. No, go back and say, hey, this is not working, can I try something else? I know we don't like to take medication, and I know we don't want to keep going back and forth. I get it. But at the end of the day, if you want to feel better, you need to take that to regulate. You cannot listen to a sermon or come to Bible study if your mind is not clear. And if you need medication to regulate your moods, guess what? Get you some medication to regulate your moods. But only way medication works is with psychotherapy, with therapy. You can't do just one. Because once you get to we call it a baseline. Medication helps you get to your baseline, which is your normal, right? So when you get to your normal, now I can actually have a conversation with you. But if you are not at your normal and your moods are up and down, you're not hearing anything that I'm saying. So it all works together. You can't just have psychotherapy, and if you need the medication, you just get the therapy and not the medication. Now you don't really put some hard time on that therapist to try to deal with you, because he ain't gonna be able to deal with you because you ain't on your medication. So these things work conjunction with each other. So you have to have them both. You can't have one or the other. You have to have them both. Okay? Any questions on the medication? Okay. Mr. Cavett, please. So the question is, does therapy work? So that is subjective. It works for anybody that puts the effort in. If you don't try, of course it don't work, right? If you go in with your mind made up, no, it's not going to work. If you go in think you know more than them, it's not going to work. If you go in and they're trying to guide you to a place and you say, no, I'm going this way, well, why are you going? If you're going in and they're saying, hey, I need you to do this in the meantime, and you're not doing it, why are you there? Therapy doesn't start until you leave the office. Why did I say that? It's because guess what? Everything that we do together, I'm actually helping you to work through that and learn how to do that. So when you're out here by yourself in the world, you can use those tools and skills that we work through. So that's when it happens. So when we give homework, that means you have to actually practice it. You have to do it. I'm not telling you to do something once you leave here just to do it. I'm telling you because you have to learn how to do it. And it may even be something contrary to what you've been doing in the first place. That don't mean that you're a bad person, but that means what you've done before wasn't working. So I'm going to give you some things to work through, and I'm going to bring some things to light so you can see, because at the end of the day, you and I are having these conversations. You're realizing it. I'm not telling you anything. You're realizing it through our conversation that you may not be doing things correctly. So it's always a collaborative approach. So if we work together, then we can make it work. But I'm not going to work myself and you ain't going to do what you're supposed to do. It don't work that way. Okay, so I need you guys. So if it's going to work, it's up to you. It's up to you. Mr. Cav, you can go to the next one. So common types of therapy. So cognitive behavior therapy, mindfulness. I've talked to you about dialectical and cognitive already. But mindful-based cognitive therapy, what that is a focus. Mindfulness is a focus on a thing. Okay? So if I say do a mindfulness activity is a crossword puzzle. Mindful activity is a adult coloring book. We have coloring books now. Yeah, called Colorama books. So, I mean, those are mindfulness. I didn't even do my bubbles. Come on up. So, deep breathing. So this is what I teach my teenagers on how to breathe, how to focus on their breathing, and how this is a grounding technique, and we can do it as adults too. I've had a couple adults will sit and we'll blow bubbles, because blowing bubbles. I don't know if you remember or not. When you blew bubbles as a kid, you had to take deep breaths, right? This teaches you how to breathe. Most people take deep breaths by sucking in. That's not how you take a deep breath. Taking a deep breath is pushing out. So if you push out, you're actually taking your deep breath instead of sucking in. So when you work with the bubbles, what I usually do, go ahead. I usually I would tell her to push out all the way and blow the bubbles, right? Go ahead. And see, so, and I'm actually, she's holding it. She's not just blowing out. She's actually holding it as she blows. She's blowing it out, and that's her deep breath. Go ahead and blow again. Usually I have people sitting down doing this, but that's fine. And so once she stops blowing that, then she takes another breath. That's the teaching of the deep breathing. And I usually do a 4-8-4 count, meaning I will blow out 4, and I would hold for 8 seconds and blow out another 4, exhale a 4. So 4-8-4, 4-8-4. So I would take the deep breath on a 4 count, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I would hold it, 1, 2, and I'll count. So whatever number works for you, but 4-8-4 usually is the way you take your breathing. And you want to push out, not suck in, push out. So get some bubbles and practice breathing. Another thing as far as grounding, I know a lot of us like to take our shoes off, and if you're at home, you can actually take off your socks, right? If you got thick carpet, things of that nature, rub your feet through the carpet. Because see, what grounding is, it brings you back to reality. That's all it is. All grounding does is bring you back to reality, and it's a sensory thing. It's a feel, it's a touch, it's a smell. Okay, so that's all that is. When you ground yourself, you're bringing yourself back to reality. So when you're going through these stressful moments, you have to find something to ground you, to bring you back to center. If I'm having a crisis moment, the first thing I'll tell someone is take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let your shoulders drop. Take another deep breath. Because at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get you to do is I'm trying to calm your central nervous system. If anyone knows about your central nervous system, it controls everything. And so if your central nervous system is not being controlled, then you're out of control. So I need to find a way to get you back to center, meaning I'll have you take a deep breath. And I don't have people take their shoes off in my office, but I would love to, but I don't. But things like that, bringing yourself back. And so if you can get yourself back to calm, to center, then most of the time we can work something out. We can continue our collaborative approach. Because if I don't and if I can't, then guess what? We're going to waste a whole entire hour because you're in crisis mode the whole time. Okay? Mr. Cabot? So, go to the next one. Okay. So, what's the difference between talking to your counselor and doing therapy than talking to your friend. Go to the next slide. Most of the time, your friends are biased. They're going to tell you what you want to hear because they love you. And so at the end of the day, you have to be able to have someone that I like to say, don't have a horse in the race, right? Whatever happens, I'm not going to go left or right with you because it's about right. So when you can come in and say what you need to say. I'm just going to tell you what's right. You ain't going to like it sometimes, but at the end of the day, that's the only way we're going to get you to move forward. Because if we allow you to stay in your stuff by agreeing with you and making you feel good, then guess what? You're not learning. You're not learning about you. You're not growing. So the difference is friends are biased. Training, of course, we've been trained to sit with people for long periods of time and having conversations, to read between the lines, to really engage in a certain way. Confidentiality. I tell people this because people always wonder, because especially black folks, they see me sitting there. You gonna tell what I said? Look, I went to school for 8 years. I got a license. I ain't about to jeopardize none of that. I'm not about to jeopardize that for nobody, because what you say to me is more important to you than it is to me. So why would I go out and tell your business to anyone? So I need you guys to stop being afraid to go to therapy because you're afraid they're going to tell your business. They're not going to tell your business. Now, again, I told y'all at the beginning, y'all choose who y'all want to go see. Now, if you go see somebody and you ain't feeling comfortable, you need to get up out of there and go find someone you're comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, this is your life. This is your life. And so you have to choose who you want to. Yes, ma'am. Give her the mic, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I wanted to share. Mr. Thomas was my therapist. He didn't share that. But and none of y'all know my business. But I went. It really works. I went because I was stuck for approximately 15 years. I hadn't grieved a death. It was the closest person to me. I felt like that was the only person that ever understood me. We walked the same paths in life. It was my cousin. She was killed in a car accident. And I just stayed stuck. So I've been at this church 20-some years, so I didn't talk to anybody here. I sit in the balcony, kind of by myself. But I realized something was wrong. My marriage went this way. My kids went that way, and I just was walking dead, pretty much. I realized I needed help. I talked to Mr. Thomas after being here in April.
April.
Yep. So I went and talked to him, and I thank God I woke up. But when I went to talk about my husband doing this, my kids doing that. Mr. Thomas said, you got to own your stuff. You got to be accountable for what you did or what you're doing or what you weren't doing. I realized I had to fix me. Every time I try to talk about, but he did this and they doing that, he said, but what about you? No, we talking about you. What are you not doing? So had me journaling, and I realized, oh my gosh, I was a horrible person. Not maybe with my mouth, but with my actions or inaction. I had to fix me. I worked on it. I'm healthy, I'm healed. And now I didn't become this diva that nobody in the house like me now. So, and like I said, I would sit in the balcony. Now when I come in Sunday school, I sit over here. I'm trying to get better, but Mr. Thomas, I thank you. Thank you so much.
Now, she wasn't supposed to tell y'all I was her therapist. No, she did some great work though, and I love to see when they actually work through it. She did some great work, so she definitely deserves a hand because she's no longer up there. Yeah, we talked about that as well. So we're gonna wrap up and have questions and answer. But before that, I want to talk a little bit about group therapy and family therapy and individual therapy. So individual therapy is strictly for the individual, of course, right? Family therapy can be with family members. Can be with one family member. Can be with multiple family members. I would say if you're going to do family counseling with anybody, make sure that that individual is trained in those areas, because when you do family therapy, and same thing with group therapy, is that you have more than one personality that you're dealing with, and you have to be able to balance that, because you have what we call a scapegoat, which the one that's always the one that they pawn everything out on. You have the strong personality one that always have to run and take over everything. Y'all showing y'all faces. I see y'all faces. and you always have the one that's timid, that is afraid to talk or afraid to say, you know what, you did this to me. And so you need to have someone that's able to balance all of those things. The thing about group is it doesn't have to be any of your family members, though. It can be just like the spiritual guidance group. The staff can have a group about, how we're doing today. We do process group. Process groups are groups when we process what we're dealing with, things that we deal with during the day, things that we deal with during the week, stuff like that. So having a process group is good. Family therapy, family groups and stuff like that is the same thing. We also have just support groups. Y'all know what support groups is. You come and talk about what's going on and how we can support you. I think that we have to do more male support groups to let them know that they have support, because we tend to kind of hold stuff in and not talk about it because we don't think everybody understands, because we got so much pressure on us and we have to do this and we have to do that, and we don't like to talk about some of those things. So those different groups right there, those different counseling sessions right there are open. And then they have marriage and family, the husband and the wife and the kids, or they have couples therapy with the husband and the wife, or the boyfriend and girlfriend, however that goes. So those are multiple ways of actually getting help. They have substance abuse. If you're dealing with that, they have substance abuse groups, stuff like. So pretty much anything that you can think of, we do it. We can, if you're trained in those areas. I went back once I actually finished school. You always have to do CEUs, continuing education units, and so there's opportunities for, if you're in the field, to always grow, always do better, because things be obsolete after a couple years, and you have to get more education on. So if you can take advantage of those too. And so I'm working on being able to provide CEUs for trainings like these, and continue education for people if they need them for their jobs and stuff like that. So I'm trying to do that so I can provide those avenues, because quite frankly, they're expensive. They are very expensive. Every one of my trainings is over $200. And so, it's not cheap, but I do this because I love it. I do this because I want people to understand and have a better understanding of mental health. So With that being said, I want to open it up for questions of anything that we talked about, or you just kind of have a question in general when it comes to mental illness or mental health. I want to open it up for us right now. Anybody? We can start. Oh. Right here.
Good morning,
Good
church.
morning.
First and foremost, thank you to Reverend Thomas.
Thank you
for such an awesome presentation. And as most of you guys know, I'm not a public speaker, but I felt compelled to say that mental illness is truly real, truly real, truly real. And when Delsha Myra was up there and she was holding the pile of stuff,
Yeah.
I saw that in me. I'm the one who comes in, well, I thought I was put together. I thought I was put together, and no one but my family, and some moments they didn't even know it was going on, because I kept it to myself, because I thought I had to be the one holding it all together. You know, I was so bad, that for 1 year, I slept with my cover over my head for 1 full year. It could be longer, I probably didn't know. And it all just started falling apart. And it was a result of a disorder I have. I have seizures. And I didn't know what was going on. Initially, my seizures started as an adult after I had kids, and it was the tonic-clonic type of seizures. Thought I got it under control, reinvented itself with absent seizures. And that was, I could be talking to you, and for 10 seconds, I just completely go blank. I could be driving, I could completely go blank. And I did not address that problem. I didn't know what was going on. Depression started setting in. Anxiety started setting in. I'd be cooking. I would have to turn the stove off, run upstairs, go get into bed, cover my head until it all passed. But I was fine. I was coming to church. The Wayne initially didn't even know what was going on. And I thought to myself, I have to get help. It all came to a head when I wrecked my car with one of those seizures. I mean, I was having 4 and 5 a day. I wrecked my car, lost my license. It was affecting my job. I'm a nurse. I remember I started an IV one time, blacked out, blood was running everywhere. And I didn't know what was going on, so it transferred over into depression, anxiety. And I just broke down one day and said, I need help. I need help. I need help. And I got help.
Yeah.
I was put on a little bit of a small dose. And I even took a smaller dose because I bit half of it. But with much prayer, support of my family, my mom, she said for every night she would cry out to God for me, because I didn't know I was in that state, but she knew. And she would pray. I thank God for Dwayne. He was so supportive. But I got help. That's what I wanted to say. I got help. And today I can say that I feel fine. I'm not sleeping with the covers over my head anymore. I'm not running up to my room trying to get a hold of it anymore. So if you're struggling, get help.
Thank you for sharing that. That was brave. I appreciate that. Please give her a hand, because I'm not worried about the ones that talk and express. I'm worried about the ones that do not talk. So thank you for sharing that. That could help someone else that is on the brink of trying to figure this thing out and don't want to talk about it, afraid of it. And that's why I do that demonstration, is because so many of us walk around like we got it together. But it's okay if we don't. It's okay if we don't. We're not perfect. Yes.
I only have a question.
Okay.
I promise. And it kind of goes along what you were saying. How do we find help? How do people find help?
That's a good thing.
How do you recommend that they find help?
Thanks. That's a good thing. So God has really put it on my heart, and I've been working on it for a while, and is to try to get a directory, especially for African Americans, of African American professional counselors that could actually, you guys can get in contact with. And so I'm still working on it. I'm just having a hard time with a lot of people wanting to be a part of it, but I'm working on it. But for now, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to my office, and then also there's some other people around here. But since you see me here today, I got some cards up here. You guys can reach out to me. And if I'm not a good fit, I have clinicians here that works, females. A couple of them are Christian. I got another male as well. So we have, the capacity to help you if you need help. Yes, ma'am.
The other thing that we will do as the Spiritual Guidance Ministry is that, because when we met in March, you gave us a list of therapists, counselors. I have some.
Okay, good.
We'll go ahead and pull that together and get it out on our website.
Okay, great. Good.
We'll do that
Good.
for our church.
And then too, if it like Miss Robertson back there, Sister Robertson back there, if you know someone, or if you've been in therapy, or if you had medication, just talk to Sister Malone so they can get the name on the list, and she can constantly update it. It should be a fluent list that we're constantly updating, and I'll get information as I get it. I'll bring it over, and you guys will have that, because it's very important that we share. That we share, because ain't nobody in here perfect. Nobody but Jesus, right? Any more questions? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, this is just another testimonial. My sister is 51, I think. So I've been exposed to counseling and mental health forever, because she, as a young child or teenager, was paranoid schizophrenic. She has been going to counseling and medication all her life, so I've been exposed to that forever. But again, I was probably ashamed as a kid because we didn't talk about that in the Black community, but we were exposed to that forever. But I just want to say how God works. That was over 30, 40 years ago that she was diagnosed and has been on medication. Sister Malone was one of her counselors. I didn't even know Sister Malone back then. But to end up here now, under her leadership, God did this. And because you taught my sister a long time ago how to take her medication, how to go to therapy. My sister is 51. She's never been homeless. She's been on her medication. She's had episodes, but she's been on her medication, and she's lived on her own since she was 18 years old. Never been back home. And I just, look how God just brought that full circle, though. Now my family is here. Me and my dad, we're members here. And everybody else coming in eventually. But thank you, Sister Malone, for following God's vision way back when. Thank you.
So let me say this. When it comes to your mental health, what I would like for you guys to do, when you leave here today, go look at your insurance policy. If you have medical insurance, even if you have Medicaid, I want you to look at your insurance, because you don't have to pay out of your pocket. Now, if you have insurance from your job, you will probably have to pay a copay. But if you have Medicaid, it's usually free. So go home and see what kind of insurance that you have, just in case you need to go see someone. Okay, that's important, because I'm gonna tell you, it's extremely expensive if you don't. And I don't know about you guys, to pay what you would have to pay consistently to get the help you need, you won't be able to afford it. So get insurance. Even if you get Medicaid, get some insurance, and you can go get the help that you need. And when you get it at the beginning of the year. Use it, because when you use it, it takes your copay down. So what I tell my clients is, it starts in January. You, from January till February or till March, use it. Go to get you a checkup. Go, anything you can, just use it. So by the end of March or April, you don't have any copays for the rest of the year. Some people go and they have these copays and they hadn't been to the hospital all year. They hadn't been to checkup. They hadn't been to any type of annual exams or anything. And here we are in September, and you have an entire $14,000 or $5,000 to $14,000 copays. You're gonna be paying that. So you want to use your insurance early and often. So when you go see someone, you'll have a zero copay. That's how that works. So I just want you to know that when you're using your insurance from work, use it. Don't just hold on and say, I got insurance, and not use it. Use it. Yes, ma'am.
With some HMOs, with some PPOs,
yeah,
you only have to have a copay with like a medical physician.
See?
When you go to like a therapist, you don't even have to have a copay.
Yeah.
So, they'll just bill you. So it's very important for people to look at their insurance. Because I was a medical enrollment specialist.
Thank you.
I've dealt with insurance, and so I know. So if anybody got questions about insurance, come see me.
Well, sister, you just started a ministry. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's important you know the difference between a PPO and an HMO. If you're not careful, you'll find yourself out of network and you can't get no help. So yes, ma'am.
I'm just making a comment.
You making a comment?
27 years ago, Tina brought that boy to my house. And I'm like, what is Tina doing? These are children, And when I look at you guys today, in all the ups and downs, you're still here. And I'm so proud of you all. I am so proud of you, Toby. Sorry, Reverend Thomas. I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
Tina, I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. And your mind is sharp because you know exactly. It's 27 years. 27 years. 27 years, my wife and I have been together. And 26 years. Another month, we'll be married 26 years. So, one more question, and then we're going to get ready to close out. Yes, ma'am.
This is not a question either. This is a statement to Sister Anita. I just want to encourage you, because out of all the young ladies, not stating no young ladies is great in church in St. Luke, because they are, but my mom always spoke so highly of you. And I just want to share that with you, basically from her to you. She loves her sister Anita. She said, that's about the sweetest young lady I ever met in my life. You just keep on what you doing, keep on looking good, keep on coming in, and be somebody who God wants you to be.
All right. What you got, Kev?
The one thing I want to say about that is get with your insurance company, because many insurance companies allow only a certain many times a year for counseling. And a lot of people don't know that. You might have 20 sessions that are free before you have to start paying.
Yeah.
And then you can work out that with your counselor or therapist before you do it. So, you need to get with your counselor and therapist so they can work out a plan according to that. So, because our insurance allows so many of them before you have to start paying.
Thank you for saying that. I'm glad. I should have brought that up too. I appreciate you clarifying, bringing that up, because that is absolutely right what he just said. And I love to work with people because it's about helping. So, yes. Oh, so yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. So here we go. So we've heard so much today, and we went through so much. So if you got a puzzle piece, number ones, number twos, number threes, and number fours, please come up. What's your puzzle piece number? All the number ones. Huh? I didn't hear you. Let me get the ones and the twos. You got a two? Okay.
I need all twos.
Can all the twos come over here by my wife? All the ones come over here by my daughter. One's over here. One's over here. One's over here. You got a three? Hold on. I'm gonna get you. Just stay where you at. Yep. So where the ones at? Two? What you got? Three? You only gave 2 and 3. 2 and 3. Come on up, threes. Come on, threes over here. Where y'all at? All right. Okay. Who has a 4? Who has a 4? You got 4s. So what I need you guys to do, I need you twos to put your pieces together, please. Go ahead and put your pieces together. Threes, y'all fours? Threes, put your pieces together. Y'all got to put them together. Y'all got to work together now. Mike, you got to help put them puzzle together. Y'all come on, get it together. We're going to do 4 when they finish. Oh, if you didn't get one, you could just have a seat. We only gave out 1s, 2s, and 3s, I think. Or 3s and 4s, huh? Y'all done? They done. Come on, what y'all doing? What y'all doing over there? You got a 5? Okay, just wait. Hold on. Y'all got y'all done? They getting theirs. Okay, y'all can have a seat. Yeah. Okay, now you need to do it. They still working. Come on now. Y'all, teamwork. Teamwork. Fours. Where you at, fours? Fours right here. Come on, fours. Come on, fours. Y'all done? I'm glad y'all finished. They finished. Come on. Come on. Give them a hand for putting it together. Your 5s. Where you at, 5s? 5s, come over here. Come over here, 5s. 5s. All right, 5s, come over here. Yeah. 5s over here, please. Oh. Five. Here you go. What number? Y'all 5 over here? 4. 5's over there. 5's over there.
Come on.
Somebody got some
4
4s and didn't know it.
Who? Any 4s out there? Any more 4s out there?
We need y'all.
We're missing a 4. Somebody must have went home. 5s, y'all got all y'all pieces? We're missing 2 4s? They must have rode together. They must went home. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Let the church say amen.
I think they're gone. All right, so. Any fives? Any more fives? Huh? Oh, some of them went downstairs, they said. Okay. Get y'all picture taken anyway, though. Oh, who lost their pee? You ain't put it in your purse, did you? I'm going to tell you, because my wife, she emptied out her purse the other day. Ooh, Lord. I said, you got all this in your purse? Yeah, you get in the picture anyway. She lost hers. Yeah.
Fair. You might have had a 4.
You go ahead and go over there. He got y'all picture already?
No, we waiting.
We waiting on.
Okay. Okay, they need their picture over there. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
So the reason why I had you guys put puzzle pieces together is because we're all broken. But when we come together, the things that we can do, if we just put our puzzle piece one piece at a time, we can all be better. So just because you broken don't mean that ain't nobody there to help you. You're welcome. So I want you guys to carry away from this workshop here today that guess what? If we are attentive to ourselves and others, that we can help others as well. Okay? So thank y'all for having me. I really appreciate it. I thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Thomas. Praise God. Praise God. At this time, I'm going to ask Pastor Malone to come, and he is going to take up a free will offering. Okay, Reverend? I'm going to have you sit right there. Right there.
Don't be saying stuff. I be listening. I be sneaking in on you. No, this was dynamic. But first hour I was in with the Ministers Fellowship, and one of his colleagues, who he's going to be in a session with at the Norloff Center soon, was online asking the pastors to allow them to come set up this type of session in churches to help people. I didn't go online and tell her that we were out here in one right now while they were talking, but I didn't tell her that. I told the pastors that, but she's trying to get it so that they can come to churches. And I thought about it. I said, I thank God that, and yes, it's my wife. I'm like, this is my wife, James. This is my wife. Has set up this ministry in the church, and then has set up these sessions like this. I'm just sitting over there listening to all of this wisdom that this young man has went out and gathered. God led him from one profession to another one that's more helpful to the kingdom of God. It's okay to be in business and do business, but what he's doing is beneficial to the kingdom of God. When you listen to people, and when my wife set this ministry up 12, 13 years ago, it was needed. And no church had it. We were just, I could see where we needed to help our people out. And I asked her if she would set it up. And she set it up over 12 years ago. And just like she said, when she went, how many years ago it was, to Janet Waddles and come back home telling us she was going to go to work at Janet Waddles, and that a lady came down the stairs when she was going in, and the lady said, just be like me. Be crazy. And all of us, all of the boys, all of us at the dinner table said, you can't go down there and work. You can't be working around these crazy folks. Now, all of us, all of the boys was telling her that, so we all said that to her. But I'm so happy that God led her to go do that ministry. And now she brought that ministry to the church, and she brought people here to help us. We want to be a blessing to him. I told Reverend Jones, I think he talked about $100 worth. Dale about 100. And Shoney about 200. Y'all didn't know I was listening, did you? I'm over there listening. No, but just like he said, this therapy costs. I mean, it costs. And this man has spent his time. So from St. Luke and those that didn't show up, we got something for them, and then I got something from me. And anybody else, I want you to bring your gifts, and let's be a blessing. You know, when you bless somebody that blesses you. When they bless you, be a blessing. That's what Bible said in Genesis 12. It gives out, said, and the Lord said unto Abraham, I'm going to bless you, and when I bless you, I want you to be a blessing. And then the scripture, Paul said this in the scripture. Paul said, he that is sounded down in your ear, he said, then you need to communicate to them. And that word communicate means to give to them, because they sounded down in your ear. And you give something back. And when you do that, you'll be a blessing. So I know I could joke with Shoney and Dale and Reverend Jones. So, because Reverend Jones, that's his therapy, laughter anyhow. So he and I always laughing and joking and having fun, you know. So you ain't paying right. See, I told you I got to work him. And I was listening to what Reverend Thomas said to our sister. She's a very new member of the church. But like he said, that could be a ministry, you know, information ministry. There are different ministries. The church need information, and I'm a ex-insurance agent, but I don't keep up with that stuff anymore. People always calling me, wanting me to check their policies. I can do that, but I don't keep up with this other stuff. But she does. So we got people here who can help in every area. So we thank God for you. All right, let's thank God for it, and for this preacher coming and sharing. Our God and our Father, we thank you for this preacher that you blessed to go away from doing business in the world to doing business in your church, taking care of the things that your people need. The mental health of our community is needed. And thank you for touching his heart that he would go and do this ministry. Now we ask you to bless what we have taken up here, that it'll be a blessing in his life and his work. And then bless those that have given it, that there be no void in their lives for them giving. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen, amen.
Let me just say from the Spiritual Guidance Ministry and myself, Reverend Thomas, we say thank you. Thank you so much. Our church says thank you. I want to, from the ministry, we want to thank each one of you for coming today and sharing. And we just pray that you have received what you came for. Okay? We'll be having more of these, and we pray that you'll come, okay, and continue to learn. Reverend Thomas, at this time, if you will come and bless the food downstairs, so everybody can get ready to go downstairs, we can eat, and then give us our closing prayer, please. at this time. Thank you so much.
I just want to say thank you for allowing me to come and do what I love to do. This is my secular job, but it's also my ministry. I tell people all the time, ministry for me comes first. I've always been a person that does ministry, and I will never change. So God has put me in these two avenues to be able to be a blessing to someone else. And I thank you guys for allowing me to come and speak with you. Pastor Malone, thank you for never changing. So I will say this pertaining to what he said, though, is that we're trying to get into the churches, and we need more churches to open their doors because we're just trying to help. If they're not in the right frame of mind, they can't get the word from God. And so we just need them to get in the right frame of mind so we can get them into the churches. I always tell people my ministry is to get them to a place where they can hear. And once that they can do that, I can send them to a church. And so they can hear from God. Amen. So as we get ready to go, we're going to pray for the food and then we'll dismiss. That's what Sister Malone wants. So that's what we're going to do. So we'll stand. Lord God, we thank you. We thank you for another day. Father, you bless this day as we know that you would. Father, we ask that you would continue to bless everyone that's here and that are dealing with any type of mental health or mental illness, God. Father, allow them to find the help and then find you. We ask that you would bless them, God. And Father, now as we go to partake in the eating, we ask that you would bless the food, that it will be nourishing to our bodies. Allow us to fellowship and laugh and continue to uplift your holy name. We thank you for all these blessings and your people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We need to take some pictures. So if y'all please come up and we can take some pictures and show y'all lovely teeth and all that stuff. Yeah, he said everybody line up in the choir stand. Yes, ma'am.
I am